Chapter 1850. That's a temporary mist crystal, Ruan said. It can be temporarily immune to physical attacks. Immune to physical attacks. Chen Zhao tilted his head and glanced at Ruan. Of course not completely. Ruan Faxi didn't want to let Chen Zhao try. As the creator of this fog crystal, Ruan Faxi knew the limits of this fog crystal. Generally speaking, spiritualists who possessed atomization or other elemental magic could reassemble their bodies even if they were physically attacked or if their atomization form was scattered. However, the ability obtained from the mist crystal couldn't gather again. If a physical attack exceeded a certain level, the mist form would scatter and the body would be severely injured. To put it simply, the mist crystal's ability was a weakened version of true elemental spells. Of course, elemental spells weren't truly invincible. There were countless ways to counter elemental spells. For example, Chen Zhao's mouth of gluttony could directly devour elements. It could directly pose a fatal threat to the user. However, Chen Zhao's level was overwhelming. Another example was Jallanash's elemental spells, which were the bane of elemental spells. This was an elemental counter. Elemental spells had strong physical resistance. However, their magic resistance was greatly reduced. For example, if a person used water or mist form and the opponent threw a curse at them, they would basically take as much damage as they could. The magic damage would even be several times higher than the original damage. Thus, elemental spells were also very lacking. Realizing that his attack was useless, Gakira's fist suddenly became hot and he reached into the mist. Ah! Neil screamed and the mist effect disappeared. Gakira was the weakest in the association, but he was more than enough to deal with Neil. Even if Neil stole Ruan's various magic tools, it was useless. The difference in power was obvious. If Neil used her ancient bloodline to take Gakira's attack head-on, she might have a chance to escape. However, she had to use all sorts of magic tools that she wasn't familiar with. Most of them were weakened versions of traditional spells. How could she deal with Gakira? Neil vomited a few mouthfuls of blood. That punch hadn't hurt her physically, but the heat. Gurnier knelt on one knee, even though she was injured. She was injured, but it also provided her with the power of pain. Gurnier patted his shoes. Suddenly, Ginel felt weightless. The moment she took a step forward, Gurnier had already traveled more than 10 meters. Genkira's eyes widened. So fast. Nur finally understood. Fight Gekla or anyone else in the society. She didn't have the slightest chance of winning. So she decided to run away. It was all thanks to Ruan Faxpan's experiments in the lab that he didn't avoid her. Nur could feel that the pain was decreasing rapidly. The ability to move as if he was flying was very refreshing. But it couldn't be maintained for too long. At this moment, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky without any warning. Bang! Gurnier was struck in the head by the lightning and was instantly blasted away. He stood up with difficulty. All of the magic tools on Gurnier's body had failed. Gurnier wobbled and turned to look at Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxburn on the windowsill. Come on, kill me. Kill me if you dare. Gurnier roared furiously. In an instant, the originally calm dark clouds in the sky flashed with lightning and thunder. Rumble, between the dark clouds, there was a terrifying thunderstorm. In the blink of an eye, the headquarters of the society seemed to be enveloped by the apocalypse. The atmosphere was so heavy that everyone felt suffocated. A terrifying bolt of lightning descended from the sky. But it didn't just flash by. Instead, it streaked across the ground, leaving a scorching chasm. It charged toward Gurnier. Gurnier finally felt the threat of death. The bolt of lightning was too terrifying. It was more terrifying than she could imagine. At that moment, all of her confidence, courage, and pride turned into nothingness. I admit defeat. I admit defeat, rumble. The lightning finally stopped before Gurnier, but all of its energy was released in that instant. A huge pit appeared in the ground. The surrounding ground was scorched too. Gurnier was blasted away by the explosion. Ruan Faxben was quite annoyed too. After all, Gurnier was his daughter. Chen Zhao had scolded his daughter in front of him. What could he do? Luckily, Chen Zhao didn't kill him. Ruan Faxben started to complain. Even if Gurnier wanted to escape, she should have chosen a time when Chen Zhao wasn't there. Escape when Chen Zhao was at the headquarters. Was that any different from suicide? In the headquarters, Chen Zhao was like a god. Nothing could escape Chen Zhao's eyes. Ruan Faxben walked before Gurnier. Follow me. Gurnier stood up with difficulty and followed silently. Ruan Faxben brought Gurnier to the dungeon. A few rooms in the dungeon were already occupied. More Raz stood before one of the glass rooms and talked to the occupant inside. The connected cells were all occupied by her former companions. More Raz would basically visit them every day. Only half a year had passed of their 3-year sentence. But they'd basically accepted reality now. Ruan Faxben pointed at an empty glass cell and said to Gurnier, "Go in." "How long are you going to lock me up for?" "Until I think you can come out," Ruan Faxben said. "Give me an exact time." "There's no exact time," Ruan Faxben said. Ruan Faxben said, "You shouldn't have chosen to run away now. You've wasted a chance. This is your only chance." Gurnier frowned. She suddenly realized that Ruan Faxben had let her go on purpose. That lock was specially prepared for her by Ruan Faxben, and even the magic equipment was deliberately shown to her. "Give me another chance. I won't make the same mistake twice." "No chance." Ruan Faxben shook his head. "You've already wasted your only chance. The president won't allow you to escape again, nor will he allow me to let you go again. I know of humans' information. What I want to know is more information, more accurate information, not vague and uncertain information. Let me out and I'll tell you." "Gurnier, you don't have any other choice," Ruan Faxben said. Ruan Faxben said, "Forget it. We'll talk when you're willing to talk. Just calm down here." Chapter 1851. "Portia, take care of the house," Chen Zhao said. "Boss, where are you going?" "Xan Li's going to travel around the world," Chen Zhao said, pushing his suitcase. "I'm going to send her off." "Boss, I can't take care of so many kids by myself." Portia's face was filled with reluctance. She'd only been to Japan once in her 20 years, and she'd gone with Chen Zhao. In the end, she owed a huge sum of money in Japan and even encountered the once-in-a-thousand-years Mount Fuji eruption. How old was Xan Li? She'd be able to travel around the world. Chen Zhao glanced at Portia and narrowed his eyes. "Oh, you asked me for a day and a half off a few days ago, right?" "Boss, I got it. I'll take care of the kids." "Good girl." Chen Zhao finally smiled in satisfaction. "Oh, how was your audition a few days ago?" Portia turned her head away, not wanting to answer the question. Although she had Steven's introduction, her performance in the audition studio was too poor. The result was obvious. She'd lost the role. Sometimes, even Steven's face didn't matter when he was being cheated. What face did Steven have? It could even be said that Steven could recommend a secondary role with just a word. It could be said that if Steven wanted to recommend a secondary character, it would only take a word from him. This also showed how low Portia's acting standards were. It's okay. I'll ask Steven for a recommendation next time. Portia was instantly filled with energy. Boss, don't worry. I'll take good care of your kids. Let's go. Axayanli didn't have much luggage. 2 not-so-big suitcases were filled. When Qin Zhao and Axayanli arrived at the airport, Fei Lai ran over too. She was supposed to be at Angel Beach. A while later, Risa, Moore, and Ruan Fashabin arrived one after another. Then Kalan arrived too. Ruan, where's your luggage? Qin Zhao looked at the empty-handed Ruan Fashabin. Most of my luggage is contraband, so I chose to check it through other channels, Ruan Fashabin said. You sure know how to be lazy. Axayanli, be careful. Fei Lai hugged Axayanli. Yes, Auntie Fei Lai. Axayanli had always known, even though they weren't her real parents. But their concern for her was genuine. Ever since Axayanli decided to go on an adventure. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai had never said that they would try to find the golden apple. They only had one request, and that was to be safe. They had patiently repeated this request countless times. That was a request, or even a request, that only a family member would make. When you come back, our whole family will search for the legendary treasure island. Auntie Fei Lai, I'll come back safely. Qin Zhao was on the other side, his arm resting on Lisa's shoulder. If anything happens to Axayanli, I will send the 3 of you to hell. I mean what I say. Risa and Ruan Faxi suddenly regretted instigating Axayanli in the first place. Moore, on the other hand, was innocent. He wasn't involved in Risa and Ruan's conspiracy at all. All right, your flight is about to arrive. Go into the departure lounge. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai sent the 5 to the departure lounge and watched as they entered. Fei Lai, do you still have to work today? I have to go back to the coastal rescue team. I asked Robio for 3 hours of leave. Okay, I'll send you back. No need, Fei Lai said. Go to the supermarket and buy some things. We're almost out of daily necessities. There were many people in the house, so things were consumed quickly. Okay. Be careful. After leaving the airport, Qin Zhao called Andrews first. Andrews, I need to withdraw some cash, $200,000. I'll go get it now. Help me prepare it. Qin Zhao often used cash, so he always kept some cash at home. This was the benefit of being a top client of the bank. He didn't need to make an appointment to withdraw large amounts of cash. If it was 2 years ago, Qin Zhao would need to make an appointment to withdraw $10,000. When Qin Zhao arrived at the bank, Amira knew that Qin Zhao was coming, so she came looking for him at the right time. Chen, do you want to come to my office? Business? Or private? Qin Zhao asked. It's not a big deal. Amira shrugged. My father's construction site is about to be completed. He heard that you Chinese are all good at feng shui, so he wants to ask you to check it. Ever since that incident, Amira's father, Depp, believed in such things. After hearing about feng shui, he wanted to ask Qin Zhao to check it out for him. I don't know how. You don't. I can introduce you to an expert in this area, Qin Zhao said. Also, the person I'm introducing is very skilled. His fees aren't as crazy as mine. Alright, give me his contact information. Qin Zhao gave Li Qing's number to Amira. Oh, be more respectful to this person, Qin Zhao said seriously. She's my teacher. Qin Zhao wasn't worried about Amira's attitude. Amira always had a professional smile and attitude to everyone. She definitely wouldn't let Li Qing suffer. But Amira's father, Depp, was a jerk. An arrogant, rude bastard. After hearing that this person was Qin Zhao's teacher, Amira also became serious. Don't worry, I won't mistreat your teacher. Is the cash ready? Chen Zhao asked. Yes. I'll have Andrews send it over. A while later, Andrews came with the money. Mr. Chen, here's the cash you withdrew. Please count it. Chen Zhao nodded and turned to Amira. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. After leaving the office and passing by the bank, Chen Zhao saw a figure. It was KG Sayer. KG Sayer also saw Chen Zhao. The two glanced at each other and saw the displeasure in each other's eyes. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. Should he greet that woman? Forget it. He wasn't familiar with her at all. Suddenly, 6 masked people came in from the bank. The first to react was the bank's security guard, but before he could do anything, a gun was already pressed against his temple. Don't react. Please cooperate. It's fun. A masked man fired a volley of bullets from above. Clatter, clatter, raise your hands and get on the ground. You're facing a robbery. Please don't give me a reason to kill you. Chapter 1852. Chen Zhao immediately laid on the ground and covered his head with his hands. KG Sayer's face was full of mockery. But just then, a masked robber walked up. The gun butt smashed heavily on KG Sayer's neck. Lie down and cover your head. KG Sayer stumbled and fell to the ground. KG Sayer was both shocked and furious. But the situation was against her, so she could only lie on the ground obediently. KG Sayer turned to look at Chen Zhao. She realized that Chen Zhao was looking at her with a mocking expression. KG Sayer was furious. What's there to be proud of? By now, the bank was completely under control. More than a dozen bank staff and customers had become hostages. 2 masked robbers armed with automatic rifles were watching over a dozen hostages. Then, the bank's counter door was opened. One had to know that it could only be opened from inside. This meant that there was a mole among the bank staff. These robbers were too professional. In a minute, they'd already taken out 2 boxes from the bank's vault. Chen Zhao lay on the ground and looked at the masked robbers who'd come out from the backstage. 2 boxes. These 2 boxes could hold a few $1,000,000. But Chen Zhao felt that they'd only gotten so little money after such a big fight. It was really child's play. The inside of the 2 boxes seemed to be wrapped in aluminum. Even Chen Zhao's little world couldn't sense what was in the boxes. But they probably hadn't been taken out from the vault. Instead, they'd been taken out from the safe. Their target wasn't the cash. It made sense. This was Citibank's regional headquarters. If they wanted to rob cash, they wouldn't be able to get much with so few people. With their professional methods, it would be easier for them to rob a branch with a weaker defense, and they would be able to rob more money. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that the police had arrived. Oh no! The police are here. Our escape route is blocked. A masked robber had been guarding the window outside, monitoring the situation outside. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. He picked it up. Hello, Fei Lai. Oh, we've run out of female products. Remember to buy some when you go to the supermarket later. Okay, I'll try my best. I'm in the bank now, but I'm robbed. Hang up the phone, now. Hang up now. The 2 masked robbers guarding the hostages both pointed their guns at him. Let's not talk about it now. The robbers are pointing their guns at me now. Alright, don't take too long. When KG Saar looked at Chen Zhao, she looked at him as if he was crazy. This fellow is seeking death, isn't he? As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, another call came in. Don't answer the phone. The masked robber stood before Chen Zhao and pointed the gun at his head. Chen Zhao looked at the masked robber and said matter-of-factly, "Let's understand each other. I'm not going to tell anyone. Don't answer the phone. Do you want to die?" But the threat didn't stop Chen Zhao from picking up the phone. "Hang up. Hang up now." The masked robber's voice grew louder. "I'm going to shoot." "Hey. Chen, are you in the office?" It was Amira who called him. "Yeah, I'm being held hostage right now," Chen Zhao said helplessly. "The robber is pointing a gun at my head." "Are you kidding?" "I'm serious." Chen Zhao opened the video chat. "Look. Take care of them," Amira said. "The thing they want is very important. Is it okay if I kill them by accident?" "It's okay. They're robbers." "Oh, take care of the bank surveillance too." Just then, the masked robber loaded his gun. The other hostages didn't dare to look up. Just as the robber was about to shoot, Chen Zhao attacked without any warning. He grabbed the automatic rifle. Before the robber could react, his hand was empty. The gun was already in Chen Zhao's hand. Bang! Chen Zhao raised the gun and smashed it into the robber's face with the butt. The other robber's reaction wasn't slow. He quickly turned his gun toward Chen Zhao. Groin kick. Chen Zhao lifted the gun with one hand and kicked with the other. The two robbers guarding the hostages fell to the ground. Chen Zhao raised the gun and fired at the remaining four robbers. Da-da-da, the four masked robbers immediately hid behind pillars and bunkers. All the bullets missed. Chen Zhao threw away the rifle in anger. As expected, he was cursed by the bullets. The hostages didn't even dare to look up. They trembled in the gunshots. Chen Zhao had already appeared behind a pillar. Da-da-da, ah, da-da-da, ah, the four robbers were all beaten to the ground. Chen Zhao picked up the phone. "Amira, it's done." Amira was speechless. 30 seconds. In just 30 seconds, the bank crisis was solved. The police broke in. Chen Zhao stood there with his hands raised. A few policemen surrounded him with their guns. "Hands on your head and get on the ground." Sometimes, the police were no different from robbers. "Stop, he's not a robber." Amira had already followed the police in. Chen Zhao and Amira exchanged glances. Amira glanced at the two boxes beside Chen Zhao. She opened the boxes and checked the contents. Chen Zhao saw many documents in the boxes. Judging from Amira's nervous expression, the documents were clearly very important. By now, the police had already learned what had happened from the hostages. Most of the hostages didn't dare to look up, but they could still vaguely see Chen Zhao's actions. The police were shocked by Chen Zhao's abilities, but they didn't make things difficult for him. After all, he defeated 6 armed robbers by himself. He was basically like the main characters in movies. "Is there anything missing?" "No. Thank you, Chen." Amira heaved a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, Chen Zhao was here this time. Otherwise, she'd be in great trouble. The police came over and asked a few more questions. Chen Zhao answered them truthfully. He also explained how he dealt with the 6 robbers. Of course, the police didn't watch the surveillance, so they couldn't know the exact process. KG Sayer was also being interviewed. She glanced at Chen Zhao from afar. She was also shocked by Chen Zhao's abilities. At the beginning, she'd seen Chen Zhao lying on the ground so decisively. She'd thought that Chen Zhao was really a coward. In the end, Chen Zhao shocked everyone with a single move. Just now, she'd secretly watched Chen Zhao's counterattack. The entire process had been too fast. First, he'd killed the 2 robbers guarding the hostages. Then, he'd force the remaining 4 robbers behind cover with his gun. Finally, he'd finish them off like a tornado. Chapter 1853. In a luxurious manner, a fat man in a nightgown looked at the man with a mustache in front of him. Failed? Joseph asked in surprise. That's not possible. Didn't you say you were professionals? We've never failed a commission before. The mustache Jax said calmly. The plan was going well, but there was a very powerful person among the hostages. He beat the expert I hired by himself. Who? Joseph asked with a frown. Don't worry about who he is. He's not part of the plan, Jax said calmly. Jax knew Joseph's personality. He probably wanted to take revenge. Jax didn't care who Joseph wanted to take revenge on. But the premise was that it didn't affect his plan. And someone who was able to kill 6 militants. He must be very powerful. Jax didn't like to involve this kind of enemy. Tell me, who stopped me? Joseph asked relentlessly. That's not part of my plan, Jax said coldly. I need that person's information. If you want to take revenge on that person, then you can investigate it yourself, Jax said. Are you trying to shirk responsibility for your failure? Joseph looked at Jax in annoyance. He was the employer, but Jax didn't respect him at all. He still faced him with that indifferent attitude. Jax still didn't move. Although he wasn't happy about it. But he still stuck to his principles. Commissions always came first. Pulling a person with great combat power to the opposite side. It was very likely to bring about unpredictable variables. Jax also investigated the other party's identity. The other party was rich, a very rich person. In this country, having money meant having great influence and power. It was already difficult to get the documents from the Citibank's safe. Adding a powerful enemy would make the problem even worse. Then I'll leave it to you now. I want you to kill the guy who gave me trouble, Joseph said. That person is rich, maybe even richer than you, Jax said. Do you know what will happen if you kill a super rich person like that? Oh. Rich? Joseph narrowed his eyes, then kidnap him or his family. Jax didn't answer. Kidnapping didn't need a commission. And who would pay the ransom for a commission? Count as a client. In that case, they might as well complete the kidnapping themselves. What if the client paid less than the ransom? Therefore, when it came to kidnapping, they would either do it themselves or not do it at all. Moreover, the impact of kidnapping a super-rich person or his family was too bad. This would cause the entire upper class to unite against a common enemy. After all, no one was willing to put themselves or their family's safety at risk. How much ransom could a super-rich person extort? Tens of millions of dollars was already the limit. After all, most of the rich people's assets were mostly real estate, not cash. It was unwise to go against a group for tens of millions of dollars. Moreover, there was still Joseph, who was greedy by nature. The commission he offered would definitely not be higher than the ransom. Joseph was very famous in the industry, even if he wasn't one. Joseph also had a nickname in the industry, Hyena. They specialized in embezzling other people's assets. As long as he could achieve his goal, he didn't mind using any means. Jax had worked with Joseph twice before. Joseph was a bad guy in the truest sense of the word. Every one of his money was bloody. After succeeding a few times in a row, Joseph's net worth skyrocketed, and his assets exceeded $1 billion USD. This also made him more and more complacent. Jax, on the other hand, knew the risks involved. Therefore, he always made his choices very carefully. Not every target was suitable to be their prey. A person who fought back against 6 armed men, and a super-rich person at that. Using such a person as prey. He and Joseph would probably die a horrible death. Therefore, Jax always refused. If the target was someone who won the lottery and became rich overnight, Jax was willing to use the other person as prey. Because even if the other person was rich, his influence was very limited. As for the super rich who had great influence, even if he kidnapped his family and extorted tens of millions of dollars. But what next? Kill the hostage. Or not kill the hostage. No matter what he decided, the consequences would be very serious. Joseph saw that Jax wasn't happy, and his face darkened. He didn't like people disobeying his orders. Jax, are you going to refuse my commission? How much can you pay? Jax asked. 20 million. I've always been very generous to my own people. If you can get 200 million from that person, I'll give you another 20 million, Joseph said as if he was generous. I'm sorry, I refuse, Jax refused without hesitation. Only an idiot would accept such an arduous and unrewarding task. Jax, are you really going to refuse my kindness? Do you know the consequences of this? Joseph, I know you better than anyone else, Jax said indifferently. Jax said indifferently, I know your background, your personality, and everything about you. So please don't threaten me. It won't do you any good. Joseph's face stiffened, and his cheeks twitched. Indeed, they had worked together many times, and Jax had too many secrets that could be used against him. Joseph's gaze towards Jax became a bit darker. He didn't like people who couldn't be controlled. It seemed that after this, their cooperation would end. He had to get rid of Jax and his team. Ha! Jax, I'm just joking with you. Fine, as you said, don't cause any more trouble before we get the documents. Joseph changed his expression again, and his attitude became broad-minded. If there's nothing else, I'll leave now. Jax turned around and left, not bothering to talk to Joseph at all. After leaving Joseph's manor, several of his men immediately surrounded him. Boss. Jax nodded and said, get ready. After this mission, don't contact this mad dog again. There's already a rift between us. Boss, I've heard some news. What news? My friend said that Los Angeles is very dangerous. It said that in the last 2 years, more than 5 top mercenary groups have disappeared here, and at least 20 killers have gone missing. Chapter 1854. What's going on? Jax frowned. I don't know. Anyway, Los Angeles has become a forbidden place for mercenaries and killers. The local gangs warned us to either leave as soon as possible or stay in Los Angeles. Could it be that the local gangs are deliberately mystifying things? No, I've investigated. It's true, the subordinate said seriously. More than 200 people are missing. Is there no more information? According to the local gang's speculation, there might be a new power in Los Angeles. This power is very territorial and doesn't like outsiders doing missions in Los Angeles. Looks like we have to be careful, Jax said seriously. After all, we're outsiders. Jax had encountered such an organization or force before. Under normal circumstances, Jax would leave with his men. After all, a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. Moreover, it was not suitable to have a conflict with a local power without knowing the other party's background. Rather, they would rather have a conflict with the local gangs. They did not want to have a conflict with an armed group. Gangs and armed groups were two completely different concepts. Gangs, including the mafia, no matter what form they existed in, had a relatively loose internal structure. There were very few people who could be armed. Most of them had light weapons or no weapons at all. Even some of the armed forces were amateurs. Just like the gangsters in the movies where they could equip any kind of weapon, it was impossible to appear in reality. At least for a stable regime, it was impossible to allow such gangs to exist. However, some organizations and forces were different. They had much more powerful armed forces. Moreover, they might have connections with the government. Some organizations or forces were even formed by the government. They existed for a certain purpose. Therefore, if you offended them, the revenge you would receive would be extremely strong. No one wanted to have a conflict with such organizations. Even a professional team like Jack's would not. Is there any local government department? Anti-Terrorism Security Department, the subordinate said. Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Jax frowned. Let's keep a low profile and try not to do anything ourselves. What about this mission? Try to find local people. We won't do anything. Got it. How was the bank robbery today? Fei Lai asked. It's quite boring. Chen Zhao shrugged. Those people aren't real professionals. They look more like pawns arranged by someone. In the beginning, Chen Zhao saw how fast they were. In just a minute, they had taken control of the situation in the bank. He thought they were professionals. In the end, they realized that they were only well-trained at best. He should be a retired soldier, but he was far from being an elite. Be it in terms of awareness or strength, they were quite average. Someone must be controlling them from behind the scenes. Even the spies in the bank were arranged by the people behind the scenes. They were just following the plan. Once Chen Zhao, who was not part of the plan, appeared. They didn't know what to do. Especially when Chen Zhao answered the call. They couldn't make up their minds to shoot. This meant that they were not the kind of people who would kill indiscriminately. He was probably short on cash and wanted to earn some extra income. Then, he was hired to participate in this robbery. During the whole robbery, they did not kill anyone. This meant that they still had their own bottom line. Of course, this couldn't be a reason for them to get off scot-free. Amelia should know the truth. Since the other party was here for the documents. And Amelia's reaction showed that he cared about the documents. This meant that Amelia knew the other party's identity. After dinner, Chen Zhao picked up his phone and called Amelia. Amelia, who's the person behind the bank robberies today? A robber who made his fortune by killing and robbing, Amelia said calmly. Those documents are a rich man's inheritance. Before he died, he gave his real estate to the bank for safekeeping. That person has his eyes on the inheritance. If I steal these documents, I can get the inheritance. Chen Zhao asked, confused. Some of the legal issues involved are very complicated. To put it simply, he only needs to destroy these documents and then he can deny the bank the right to safekeep. Then, he can establish a relationship with one of the rich man's blood descendants and have the right to take over the inheritance. That rich man should have a law firm, right? There should be legal notarization for this kind of safekeeping, right? Yes, but these documents are key. Right now, the bank is in a lawsuit with the rich man's family. If these documents are lost, the bank will be in a passive position. That person's methods are extremely despicable. Kidnapping, threatening, killing, framing, as long as he can get the inheritance, he'll do anything, Amelia said. Amira said, by the way, you'd better be careful. After all, you've unwittingly gotten involved in this matter. Although you're not afraid, you still have your family. You'd better be wary of them. Chen Zhao thought about it. Find 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai. But Fei Lai definitely wouldn't accept it. Then he'd protect her secretly. After hanging up with Amira, Chen Zhao called Klaus. Klaus, do you know any powerful bodyguards? President. I know quite a few people, but they're definitely not good enough for you, Klaus said with a bitter smile. I want to prepare 2 bodyguards for Fei Lai to protect her secretly, Chen Zhao said. Oh, I see. I do have their numbers. How about I give you their numbers? Sure. Give me their numbers. Klaus sent the numbers to Chen Zhao. After getting the numbers, Chen Zhao contacted the person. After saying Klaus's name, the person agreed to meet easily. The person wasn't in LA right now, but they'd rush over immediately. They should be able to reach LA tomorrow. Actually, even without bodyguards, Fei Lai might not be in danger. First of all, she definitely wouldn't be in danger at home. Second, Walter would follow Fei Lai every day. Moreover, Fei Lai's skills were quite good. Her body was already much stronger than normal people. She would also occasionally practice boxing with Chen Zhao. Of course, Chen Zhao wanted to be careful. There was nothing wrong with being careful. Chen Zhao thought about it and called Basin over. Basin was also a strong bodyguard. Besides Samuel, he was the smallest one in the bodyguard team. Even if he followed Fei Lai every day, he wouldn't attract attention. Chapter 1855. The next day, Chen Zhao arrived at the appointed restaurant. There were quite a lot of people in the restaurant, but there was only one table. The customers were all in suits and ties. There were both men and women. Hello, Chen Zhao asked first. Did Klaus introduce you? You're Mr. Chen, right? The leading man was in his 40s. We're from Blade Security Company. I'm Glavers, the person in charge of the company. They're all members of our team. How much do you charge? Chen Zhao asked. Mr. Chen, Glavers asked, do you want long-term employment or short-term service? Chen Zhao thought for a moment and asked, what's the long-term fee? What's the short-term fee? The short-term fee is based on the number of days. 10,000 per person per day. The shortest is 7 days. Long-term, at least half a year, 120,000 per month. Then long-term. It seems more cost-effective, Chen Zhao said. I want 2 female bodyguards. It's best if my wife doesn't know. You just have to protect her secretly and don't disturb her work. So what does your wife do? Coastal Rescue Team. Don't disturb her when she's working, but if someone suspicious approaches her, you have to take action. Glavers nodded. No problem. Let's sign for half a year first. If I'm satisfied with your service, I'll sign a longer contract, Chen Zhao said. Here's a check for 1.5 million. Glavers was also quite satisfied with Chen Zhao's client. He didn't haggle at all and accepted the price he offered very straightforwardly. A regular security guard's monthly salary wasn't even 10,000. His offer was sky high, but Chen Zhao didn't even blink. Mr. Chen, do you need security services? Me? Forget it. I don't need it. Chen Zhao smiled and shook his head. Fine. By the way, are you close to Klaus? When Klaus was in the army, I was his instructor, Graves replied. Chen Zhao felt that anyone who could be an instructor in the army was really strong. For example, Gaia's combat skills were top-notch. Glavers thought that Klaus was Chen Zhao's bodyguard. He knew Klaus's skills, so he didn't force him to introduce bodyguards. She's Avia, and she's Zoya. They're not any weaker than any of the men in our company. Glavers pointed at the 2 women in suits. Chen Zhao reached out. Avia, Zoya, hello. Hello, boss. The 2 girls shook hands with Chen Zhao. From today onwards, you 2 will listen to Mr. Chen's instructions. Yes, Mr. Graves. Mr. Chen, if there's nothing else, we'll be leaving first. Talk to Avia and Zoya. Gravis led the others away. Chen Zhao gestured for them to sit down. This is my wife's message. Take a look. You better not let her know of your existence. Just protect her in secret. Unless it's necessary, don't show yourself. Boss, if your wife works for the coastal rescue team, she shouldn't be in any danger during the day. At least, she won't be attacked directly. The main problem is when she's on her way to and from work, Avia said. Can you install a tracker on your wife? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. If you think it's necessary, then do it. How you do it will depend on your abilities. I won't do it myself. Of course. It's our job. Frank was depressed, because he'd been in charge of feeding Raymond for the past 2 days. After 2 days of contact, Frank wasn't afraid of Raymond anymore. But Raymond was really vengeful. He would tease him every time he came. For example, yesterday, Frank drove a truck to deliver 2 live cows. He led the cows to the top of the mountain. Before he could rest, a 6-meter-long crocodile appeared. Frank was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He fired a few shots but didn't kill the crocodile. Instead, it became even more ferocious. Just as Frank was about to turn and run, Raymond appeared and bit the scary crocodile to death. After that, Frank realized that Raymond had driven the crocodile here. Frank was furious, but he couldn't do anything. Who asked him to offend Raymond? There are crocodiles. Why do they have to eat beef? Frank complained as he led the 2 cows up the mountain. Moo! Just then, the 2 cows that were being led suddenly became restless. Frank let go of the reins and Raymond appeared. He bit one of the cows with his bloody mouth. The cow weighing more than 1,000 kilograms was bitten by Raymond. No matter how many times Frank saw it, he was still shocked. Raymond's way of eating was too violent. The other cow wanted to run, but Raymond swept his tail and knocked it out. Raymond, today's food is here, Frank called. I'm leaving. Frank wasn't interested in watching Raymond eat. Just then, a few voices came from the mountain path. Before Frank could make a sound, Raymond picked him up and slipped into the bushes like a wisp of smoke. The man and snake hid in the bushes and watched the people coming from the mountain path. They were just kids. They had probably just entered high school. Frank felt Raymond's tail loosen. Then, Raymond whipped Frank's butt. Frank stumbled and fell out of the bushes. Aw! The kids were startled when they saw Frank suddenly come out of the bushes. What are you doing here? This is private property. Frank yelled and touched his buttocks. You think it's private property? Look at how sneaky you are. You don't look like a good person. I'll call the police, a girl pointed at Frank. She wasn't afraid of the burly Frank at all. Frank's face turned red. What do you mean I don't look like a good person? I'm doing this for your own good. These children were obviously here to sightsee. They didn't know where they heard that there was a lake on the mountain, so they came here. Call the police. Okay, call the police. Frank suddenly thought that if the police came and found out what Raymond said, it would be troublesome. Don't mind him. Look, there really is a lake. The lake here is so beautiful. The group of kids rushed towards the lake. But after a few steps, they saw the corpse of a crocodile. Aw! Crocodile! Crocodile! Frank slowly walked over. There are crocodiles here. If you don't want to feed them, get lost. The children immediately hesitated. They were indeed frightened by the crocodiles, but they didn't want to leave. Chapter 1856. Frank crossed his arms over his chest and looked at the group of brats with a smile. The leader gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go. This is a mountain, and the crocodiles can't come up here. Most likely, someone put a crocodile here. Since it's dead, there must be no more crocodiles. The kid's guess was reasonable. Normally, crocodiles wouldn't live at high altitudes. There was a water source and there wasn't much food. Crocodiles appearing here could only be released on purpose. But limited by food, even if a few crocodiles were released, very few could survive. Frank sneered. There are a lot of crocodiles here. We won't believe you. You're scaring us on purpose. Yeah, why should we believe you? The kids felt that Frank was scaring them on purpose. Since you want to die, I can only call the police, Frank said. There really were a lot of crocodiles here. Frank wanted to see them embarrass themselves. But it was a matter of life and death. If he couldn't persuade them, he could only call the police. Hearing Frank's words, the kids were even more certain of their guess. Let's go. Ignore him. The kids excitedly ran to the lake. The kids were wearing swimsuits under their jackets. They took off their jackets and jumped into the water. Frank was anxious. He ran to the lake and dialed the police's number. This wasn't a joke. If something happened here and someone died, especially a group of minors, not only would he be in trouble, but even Stephen would be in trouble. Damn, there's no signal here. I should get a satellite phone. Frank was a bit angry. Hurry up, there really are crocodiles here, Frank said anxiously. But the kids were having fun. They didn't care about Frank's advice at all. The water quality here is so good. Yeah, it's so comfortable. It was a beautiful place with verdant hills and clear waters. It was a paradise. Of course, the water quality was good. If a creature lived here for a long time, it might develop intelligence. Don't swim any deeper. Come back quickly. Frank saw the group of children swimming deeper into the water. They didn't care about his warning at all. Frank became even more anxious. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the lake. Crocodile! Crocodile! A girl screamed. The scariest thing was that the crocodiles that appeared happened to be swimming in the direction they were heading. It directly blocked their way. Oh no! Frank became more and more anxious. He took out his gun and aimed at the crocodiles. However, the caliber and power of the pistol in his hand were very small. After all, it was impossible for him to carry a powerful weapon. Saltwater crocodiles were known for their thick skin and thick flesh. Small caliber pistols can hardly inflict fatal damage on them. The water also weakened the impact of the bullet's trajectory. It was harder for Frank's gun to do damage to them. Unless, of course, he could hit their exposed heads. However, this was extremely difficult. Frank tried to fire, but the bullet hit the water and missed. Frank fired again, and a crocodile sank. However, the bullet did not hit the crocodile's head, but its body. At this time, another group of crocodiles surrounded the children from another direction. Frank's face was pale. He was at a loss. He could almost foresee that once the two groups of crocodiles surrounded the children, it would be a bloody feast of slaughter. At this moment, the grass moved, followed by a splashing sound. Raymond! Raymond is here, Frank saw Raymond's body slide into the lake. Then, the lake began to churn. A crocodile floated to the surface with its belly up. Frank gulped. Then a second crocodile, a third, quick, here, here. Swim this way. Frank shouted. The children also saw the dead crocodiles. They didn't have time to think about why the crocodiles suddenly died. However, they still swam in this direction. They weren't too far from the shore. Soon, they swam past the dead crocodiles. Frank helped them to the shore one by one. The children were all terrified. The lake was still churning. The crocodiles floated to the surface with their bellies up. By now, they had calmed down. Their faces were full of doubt. Something in the water is killing those crocodiles. Yeah. The children looked at Frank. He must be in the know. He knows what's in the water. Soon, there were more than a dozen crocodiles' bodies on the surface. A crocodile's body was washed to the shore. Don't go over, Frank ordered. That crocodile might not be completely dead. However, these children were extremely daring. They ignored Frank's obstruction and went to flip the crocodile's body. The 4-meter-long crocodile needed the children to work together to flip it over. They found that the crocodile's neck had been bitten by something. Obviously, this thing was huge. At least its mouth could directly bite the crocodile's neck. And it was very powerful. This 4-meter-long crocodile's skin could almost block small-caliber bullets. But it was bitten to a bloody pulp. The crocodile's neck was completely broken. And that thing's purpose wasn't to eat, but to kill. Sir. What's in the water? Frank looked at the children. After hesitating for a while, he finally said in a low voice, "Don't you know? There's a legend about the monster in this water. In the past 10 years, more than a dozen people disappeared here. Later, a rich man bought this forest and wanted to build a manor here. As a result, several people died as soon as the project started. The rich man had no choice but to raise crocodiles here, hoping to use them to kill the monster in the water. As a result, the number of crocodiles increased, and that thing began to eat crocodiles." The children shivered. Frank continued, "You're lucky. At least that thing prefers the taste of crocodiles, not you. What about you? Who are you?" "I'm hired by the owner of this forest to guard this area and make sure that no one comes here to take risks. Did you see the truck parked at the foot of the mountain?" The children nodded. Frank pretended to be mysterious. "It's used to transport cattle and sheep. It's specially used to feed that thing, in case it's hungry and attacks people who come here by mistake." Chapter 1857. The kids' faces turned pale with fear. Just then, the lake started churning again. After a while, a giant crocodile that was nearly 7 meters long floated up. Blood flowed out of the lake. Everyone's expression was unnatural. Even Frank was a little shocked. Of course, he was one of the lucky ones. After all, he had seen Raymond's true form. That was why he knew Raymond was terrifying. But that didn't stop him from being shocked. The rest of the children were also frightened. "You'd better leave." "I'm leaving too. Once the monster in the water changes its appetite, we'll probably become its target," Frank said and turned to leave. The kids didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly followed Frank. Seeing this scene, Frank finally let out a sigh of relief. If the kids didn't want to leave, it would be really troublesome. Then he would inform Stephen and let him handle it. It was true that any means of invading someone else's territory was allowed. But Stephen was a public figure, so he couldn't be reckless. As long as it was a stable society, minors would be protected as much as possible. Even if a minor made a mistake, public opinion would often side with the minor. "Jess, do you believe what he said? Whether he's telling the truth or not, at least there's a terrifying creature in the water," Jess said and looked meaningfully at his companions. "Lee-Nan, you don't believe him." "No, I believe him," Lee-Nan said. Lee-Nan said, "Have you ever thought that if we can film a monster, then we'll be rich? Our video will cause a sensation, and we'll all become celebrities. But, that monster eats people." Jess was a bit scared. After all, that thing could even kill crocodiles in groups. It would probably be very easy to deal with them. As for the Americans, they had been deeply affected by the monster movies. They were all a bit scared. Would it cause more trouble? It's okay. That person said he comes here often. As long as he brings cows and sheep, he won't be attacked by the monster. It means that the monster doesn't have to eat people. It's fine as long as there's other food. Please, it's impossible for us to afford a cow, not even a sheep, Wang Yao said. Let's pool our money. Maybe we can. How much does a sheep cost? It's only $100 or so. After Li Nan's fear faded, he began to feel a little excited. Think about it, if we can film a real monster, as long as the video on Twitter has more than 10 million views, we can get $100,000. I won't participate. That's a real monster, a girl said firmly. I don't want to take the risk. I'm not joining either. The two girls in the small group expressed their stance. None of them wanted to get into trouble. The other two boys hesitated for a moment and finally chose to withdraw. Only Jesse was hesitant. He was tempted. Jess was the talk of the town in school. He loved to be in the limelight. He was also the one who led the fight against Frank. Li Nan, on the other hand, came from a poor family. His record in school is very poor. What he wanted was not to be in the limelight but to make money. What if we don't find the monster, but the crocodiles find us? Jay said hesitantly, those crocodiles aren't worth much. It's fine as long as we don't go near the water source. Crocodiles can't run as fast as us on land. Are you sure the monster won't eat us like snacks if we find it? We can disguise ourselves. Monsters are monsters after all. It'll be fine. I can get a gun, Li Nan said. My dad has a gun. Please don't. Jay's was calmer. Your gun can't even kill crocodiles, let alone that monster. Didaira was building a castle on the beach with Jerlin, Mara, and Sindora. Chen Zhao realized that Didaira was really calm and reserved. She was the model daughter of a rich family. Chen Zhao didn't dislike Didaira. He just hoped that she could be more open-minded. Didaira wasn't like other kids who liked to make a fuss, or be gluttonous or cry. Even Portia would throw a bit of a tantrum. But Didaira wouldn't. Didaira didn't cry at all. Instead, she helped Chen Zhao and Fei Lai take care of the kids. Of course, Chen Zhao could still see some of Didaira's immature behavior. For example, when they were shopping, Didaira wanted to buy something. She would look at those things carelessly. But when Chen Zhao looked at her, she would avoid it and pretend to be careless. Chen Zhao was very troubled. Lying on the chair, Chen Zhao looked at Didaira. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao took out his phone and called Nawat Singh. Nawat, I want to ask you something. Chen, what do you want to ask? I think Didaira is too introverted. It's even a bit abnormal. A child from a normal family wouldn't be so introverted. Whether it was in the East or the West, the current society gave children too many opportunities to interact with the outside world. Therefore, many of the children's characteristics were nurtured. Chen Zhao was worried that Didaira had some mental illness, even depression. Depression was a very scary mental illness. Of course, it wasn't scary for others. Depression didn't cause damage or harm to others. It would harm oneself. Some patients with depression had some symptoms when they were young. Parents didn't pay attention to it, causing the illness to worsen. In the end, they would walk a path of no return. This wasn't what Chen Zhao wanted to see. He didn't know how to treat depression either. So, Chen Zhao wanted to take Didaira to see a psychologist. However, Chen Zhao was also worried that taking Didi to see a psychiatrist would cause more serious psychological trauma. Chen Zhao planned to ask Nawat Singh about it first. Didira, her background isn't good, Nawat said. Her parents died in an accident when she was very young, and she was fostered at her uncle and aunt's house. I heard that her uncle and aunt didn't treat her well, and even beat her. Nawat Singh said. Nawat paused. Didira's worried that she'll be abandoned. Okay, got it. Hearing this, Chen Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. It was a trauma, not a mental illness. Mental trauma wasn't good either. But at least it could heal her trauma. If it was a mental illness, it would be troublesome. Chen Zhao stared at Didira. After a while, he called Fei Lai. Chapter 1858. In the evening, Fei Lai returned. She also brought back a huge gift box. Didi, come and help. Hearing Fei Lai's call, Didi immediately ran over to help Fei Lai carry the gift box. Didi wanted to ask what was in the box several times. But she resisted the urge and did not speak. The box was very heavy, at least dozens of kilograms. All the children gathered around, looking curiously at the square gift box that was almost as tall as a person. Mom! Little Larissa ran to Fei Lai unsteadily. Little Larissa could understand the words mom and sister now, but it was still unclear. Open it! Little Larissa shouted, pointing at the big gift box. Fei Lai turned to Didi. Didi, do you want to know what's inside? Didi hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Yes. It's for you. Open it, Fei Lai said. Ha! For me. Why? Where are my siblings? They don't have any, Fei Lai said. It's for you, because you're the most obedient child. Didi stared at Fei Lai in a daze. Biting her lower lip, she still hesitated. Fei Lai patted Didi's shoulder. Go ahead. Didi finally went up and undid the knots on the box. Instantly, the box opened with a clatter. Inside was an exquisite boat model, a yacht model. Didi La, this yacht is the model of your uncle's customized yacht, and your uncle and I have decided to name it after you, the warrior Didi La. The boat model had been taken from Seagate. Chen Zhao had called Fei Lai earlier to ask her to take the yacht model. Ha! Didi was caught off guard. She wasn't a boat model enthusiast, but the yacht model before her really made her eyes light up. She liked the unique design and exquisite workmanship from the bottom of her heart. The other children also looked at the model enviously. Mom, I want it too. I want it too. Little Jerlin tugged at Fei Lai's pants. Little Jerlin, if you want it, you have to be as obedient as Sister Didi. It depends on your performance, Fei Lai said. Jerlin will be obedient. Jerlin clenched her little fists, as if she had made up her mind. Chen Zhao walked up and touched Didi's head. Didi, I'll bring the model to your room. Didi bit her lower lip. She wasn't good at expressing her feelings. Her eyes were filled with touched and happy tears. Thank you, Auntie, thank you, Uncle. Chen Zhao carefully brought the model to Didi's room. Dinner was held in the front yard. The inferior demons placed the dishes on the long table. Didi La, what else do you want besides the ship model and the naming of the new yacht? No, Didi said. I don't want anything else. Of course. Think about it, Fei Lai said domineeringly. What do you want the most? Didi said. Didi, Chen said. Didi, Chen, Gyuthead. Chen and, Didi said. Chen said. Didi, Chen and, Didi. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both stunned. They didn't expect Didi to make such a request. Chen, can you do it? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. But I need to make some preparations. Chen Zhao stood up. You guys eat first. Chen Zhao didn't even want to go around the world. But DDRA had this wish. Chen Zhao naturally had to fulfill her wish. Chen Zhao needed to prepare equipment that could resist high temperatures and strong winds for Didi. Chen Zhao called Jolik first. Usually, Ruan Faisai was the most suitable person for this. But Ruan wasn't here, so Chen Zhao could only ask Jolik. Chen Zhao told Jolik about his request and intentions. Jolik accepted the request without hesitation. The request itself wasn't difficult. The main thing was the silver dragon skin. So, the request was simple. Of course, Chen Zhao also wanted a beautiful appearance. Chen Zhao wanted a set of equipment similar to superheroes. It didn't need any special functions. Gakira and Dongye Tianchi were in charge of the outer shell. They finished it quickly. Then Jolig was in charge of further processing, covering the armor with the silver dragon skin. 2 hours later, Chen Zhao brought Didi to the headquarters. Didi, put this on. See if it fits. Chen Zhao picked up the helmet and put it on Didi. After putting on the helmet and the equipment, Didi's entire aura changed. She looked like a valiant Valkyrie. There was also a red cape on the back of the equipment. Of course, apart from being able to resist pressure and heat, the cape didn't have any other uses. The entire equipment was sealed. There were only a few ventilation holes on the back of the helmet. Didi, how do you feel? Chen Zhao was quite satisfied with Didi's appearance. Not bad, pretty comfortable, Didi said. Uncle, what's this for? To go around the world, Chen Zhao said. Are you ready? Now. Of course, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. At the same time, Chen Zhao appeared in his strongest form. Jolik and the others also took a few steps back. Chen Zhao reached out. Come, sit on my arm. Didi hesitated, but he still sat on Chen Zhao's arm. Chen Zhao slowly rose into the air. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me immediately. Oh. Got it. Chen Zhao didn't go at top speed right away. Instead, he slowly sped up. If the acceleration was too fast, Didi wouldn't be able to handle it. How do you feel now? Not bad, Didi said. Uncle, can you go faster? Yes, I'll speed up. Okay. Chen Zhao had calculated. With his speed, if he went at full speed, he could circle the Earth in less than 3 hours. The Earth's circumference was around 40,000 kilometers. Chen Zhao's top speed could reach Mach 15. However, Chen Zhao considered stopping at a few places and letting Didi play for a while. So, the estimated time for this trip was around 10 hours. Soon, Chen Zhao reached his top speed. Although Chen Zhao had brought Didi, he felt that his speed wasn't any slower than the last time. In fact, it was even faster. After all, last time, the runway was short and he didn't have enough acceleration. Now, Chen Zhao had enough time to accelerate, so he estimated that his speed could surpass Mach 16. Chapter 1859. Didi, how do you feel now? Chen Zhao asked. Do you feel uncomfortable? No, I feel good. Didi-ra looked at the vast sea, which was also rapidly retreating. Just then, 2 fighter jets appeared in front of them. With Chen Zhao's current speed, he must have been discovered by the satellites. Plus, the Americans must have recognized that Chen Zhao was the one who destroyed Nightingale. So, they didn't hold back this time and sent 2 fighter jets. The 2 fighter jets had appeared nearby. They must have taken off from an aircraft carrier. There should be a fleet nearby. Chen Zhao didn't want to fight with them. After all, he had Didi with him. Didi, let's go into the ocean now. Chen Zhao immediately lowered his altitude. Then, he split the surface and dove into the ocean. Chen Zhao couldn't dive into the ocean like usual. After all, if he charged into the ocean at such a high speed, the huge inertia would break Didi's limbs. So, Chen Zhao entered the ocean in a gentle way. Chen Zhao controlled the seawater and traveled through it. After traveling for more than 10 minutes, he reappeared on the surface of the ocean. We're about to reach the Hawaiian Islands, Chen Zhao reminded. Let's go take some pictures there. Didi had never been to Hawaii before. He was quite excited now. But it's night now, Chen Zhao said. Hawaii is famous for its sunny beaches, so there's nothing fun here. My whole family will come again next time. I understand, Didi replied in a considerate manner. Right now, the Hawaiian beach was silent. Didi picked up a shell. Uncle, help me put it away. Chen Zhao looked at the shell. There was nothing special about it. However, he still put the shell away. Next stop, Mount Fuji, Chen Zhao said. Passenger, Miss Didi, please get ready. The flight is about to depart. Whoosh, instantly, Chen Zhao set off again, heading straight for Mount Fuji. Didi wanted to go around the world. But if it was just going around, it would be meaningless. Chen Zhao wanted to go to some landmarks or scenic spots. Hawaii was about 6,000 kilometers away from Japan. In less than 20 minutes, Chen Zhao brought Didi to the sky above Mount Fuji. This is Japan's Mount Fuji. Do you see that forest? That's the Aoki Plains Forest Sea. That barren area was left behind after a great battle between me and a supreme demon. Didi looked at Mount Fuji in amazement. He also looked at the forest that Chen Zhao was pointing at. Will it be cold? No, I'm fine. At this moment, a red light pierced through the air. Chen Zhao's eyes narrowed. It was none other than the nine-tailed fox, Tamamonome. Soon, Tamamonome arrived before Chen Zhao. Although Tamamonome was in human form, the 9 tails on her back were very obvious. Chen Zhao, are you here to fight me? Tamamonome's lips curled up in a smile. She's the peerless Great Yao that fought against me. Chen Zhao glanced at Tamamonome. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to travel the world with my daughter. Tamamonome stared at Chen Zhao, as if trying to determine if he was telling the truth. However, Chen Zhao and Didi did not linger here. They went straight to their next destination. Tamamonome looked at Chen Zhao's departing figure and cursed, "You run fast." Although she was unhappy that Chen Zhao came and left in such a hurry, she really could not do anything about his speed. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao had left Japan. According to the normal route, Chen Zhao's next stop should be Huaxia. But after careful consideration, Chen Zhao gave up on this idea. If Chen Zhao entered Huaxia in this state, neither the military nor the spiritual world would be happy. Chen Zhao could do whatever he wanted abroad, but he couldn't do the same in Huaxia. So, Chen Zhao decided to avoid Huaxia in the end. He followed the East Sea, passed the Xisha and Xisha Islands, and entered Vietnam. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly realized that there seemed to be a battle below. It wasn't a battle between normal people. It was a battle between the spiritual world. In Chen Zhao's original plan, Vietnam was not their stop. Chen Zhao planned to pass through Vietnam and enter Cambodia to see Angkor Wat. But the battle below still attracted Chen Zhao's attention. There was a muddy river below. It should be a tributary of the Mekong River. On the river, there were a dozen boats of various sizes and hundreds of spiritualists. Looking down from the sky, Chen Zhao could clearly see something swimming under the water. It was very large and long, at least 70 to 80 meters long. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of the blood-red mission, Mekong River Monster. That thing suddenly emerged from the surface of the water, and then directly knocked over a ship on the water. The people on the boat all fell into the water. Then the thing started eating. Those who fell into the water were all spiritualists. They weren't strong or weak, but in the water, they were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Chen Zhao could clearly see that it wasn't a dragon at all. It was more like a huge, sick eel. Chen Zhao could feel that this super eel had a very thick demonic aura. It seemed to be a powerful demon. Moreover, Chen Zhao could feel a strong electrical energy from it. "No, we can't continue fighting on the water," an Asian man shouted. "This is the monster's home field. We have to find a way to lure it to land or shallow water." Boom! Just then, there was an earth-shattering sound. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Another boat was split in half. The people on the boat were turned into charcoal. "Damn, this monster can't be defeated. Send a signal to the other boats to retreat. We can't continue like this. If this continues, we'll all be wiped out." Is there no way at all? It's possible on land, but it's impossible on the water. Hu Yixian shook his head. Fine. The people on the boat were more complicated. There were blonde foreigners, but most of them were Asian. The consecutive losses made them lose their will to fight. The boat started to reach the shore, but the underwater attacks continued. Lightning also fell from the sky every now and then. After arriving at the shore, everyone scrambled to get ashore. As soon as Hu Yixian got off the boat, she saw two people standing on the shore. One was a huge giant. It was clearly a strengthening spell. The other was wearing strange equipment and a helmet. She couldn't see her face clearly. Judging from her figure, she should be a young girl. Weren't these two from this team? Chapter 1860. Friend, you are. Hu Yixian was the leader of the team, but he didn't know these two. Therefore, he cupped his fists and greeted them. However, he guessed that these two people in front of him were most likely here to participate in the Scarlet Mission. Just then, the river started churning again. The huge figure of the water monster was faintly discernible. It looked like it was going to rush ashore. "Oh no, the water monster is close to the shore. Move back." Alarmed, Hu Yixian hurriedly told his companions to move back. Only Chen Zhao and Dedaira stood still. "Dedaira, wait here. I'll be right back." "Okay." Dedaira nodded. When Hu Yixian retreated, he looked back at Chen Zhao and Dedaira. "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and retreat." Hu Yixian waved her hands and feet and shouted. However, he saw that the person didn't seem to realize the danger. He continued walking toward the river. By then, the water monster had reached the shore and poked its huge head out of the water. The water monster's body released a high-energy electric current. Dark clouds filled the sky. Affected by the water monster, they kept releasing electricity. Chen Zhao was huge, but compared to the water monster, he was like an ant compared to an elephant. Hu Yixian gasped. This was his first time seeing the water monster's true appearance. The others were the same. The water monster was scarier than they'd imagined. A power that could cause a celestial phenomenon was absolutely powerful no matter where it was. Chen Zhao looked at the water monster. This big eel should be half a step into the Shangqing realm. However, it was limited by the water. If it left the water, its power would be greatly reduced. But even so, its strength wasn't something that those people could match. The water monster pounced at Chen Zhao, its huge mouth going for his head. Chen Zhao punched the monster's head from below. Bang! Half of the monster's head was smashed. Everyone's jaws dropped as they stared at Qin Zhao in shock. Instant kill. That terrifying water monster had been instantly killed by this person. Just when everyone was in disbelief, the water monster suddenly moved again. The water monster suddenly moved again, and then its exposed body suddenly shrunk back into the water. At the same time, the damaged part of its head began to heal rapidly. Qin Zhao raised an eyebrow. This water monster's healing ability was so strong. He was not much weaker than Tamamo no Mei. Half of his head had been smashed off, yet he was still alive. Qin Zhao jumped into the water. In an instant, the river began to churn violently, creating huge waves that reached the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky, and thunder fell continuously. Everyone looked at the raging waves of the river in horror. Rumble. None of them had ever seen a battle of this level. Even though they had more than 10 ships and more than 100 spiritualists working together previously, it was still impossible for them to survive. The water monster also didn't display its true strength. In the water, Qin Zhao kept beating up the water monster. The water monster was very similar to Qin Zhao. He possessed the attributes of water and lightning, and at the same time, he had a strong physical body. It was the same for Qin Zhao, but his control over water wasn't as good as the water monster's, while lightning was stronger. Therefore, they were basically equal in these two aspects. However, Qin Zhao's level was higher than the water monster. His physical strength far surpassed that of the water monster. The water monster felt it too, so it started to run away. Qin Zhao couldn't deal a fatal blow to the water monster. The strongest thing about the water monster was its self-healing ability. It was almost at Tamamo no Mei's level. Qin Zhao took out the black trident. The water monster instantly bristled and twisted its body even harder. It felt the threat of the black trident. It was a fatal threat. Qin Zhao stabbed the trident into the water monster's head. The moment the black trident pierced the monster's head, the terrifying power started killing the monster's cells. Qin Zhao twisted the black trident in his hand and the monster's head was blown apart. In the murky water, Qin Zhao sensed two familiar energy sources. Qin Zhao fished in the water. Two internal cores that radiated the power of water and lightning fell into his hands. The two cores were similar to old turtles. However, the difference between the two was billions of times. Nevertheless, the two cores were useless to Qin Zhao. Of course, Qin Zhao didn't want to waste them, so he put away the internal cores and the water monster's body. Hu Yixian and the others looked at the river. It continued to churn for half an hour. Suddenly, there was silence. Was the battle over? Everyone waited for the result. Who lost? Who won? Or was it a draw? Finally, a figure flew out of the river. A pillar of water exploded from the water. Everyone saw Qin Zhao's figure rise into the air and then land on them. Hu Yixian walked over in large strides. This time, he didn't put his hands together. Instead, he cupped his hands and bowed. "Sir, how is the water monster?" "Dead," Qin Zhao answered indifferently. Hearing Qin Zhao's fluent Chinese, Hu Yixian's heart jumped. He must be a spiritualist from China. "Sir, may I know your name?" Hu Yixian asked. To Hu Yixian, Qin Zhao was most likely a top master in China. Although Qin Zhao looked very young in the form of the mighty miracle god, Qin Zhao was still very young. But to Hu Yixian, Qin Zhao was most likely an old man. "No," Qin Zhao said indifferently. He turned to Didi. "Didi, sit on my arm. Let's go." Hu Yixian was stunned for a moment. Why did this old senior suddenly speak English? Didi sat on Chen Zhao's arm and Chen Zhao shot into the air. Even the pressure from Chen Zhao's departure was unbearable. Who is he? A spiritualist from China? So powerful. So scary, as expected of the most active supernatural region in the world. He's like a god. Who, do you know where he's from? I don't know. That senior doesn't want to reveal his information. The remaining people were all amazed. That unbelievable power made them gasp in amazement. Unfortunately, Chen Zhao's unapproachable attitude made it impossible for them to befriend him. By now, Chen Zhao had reached the border of Vietnam. In the blink of an eye, he was in Cambodia. Chen Zhao paused for a moment to check his position and confirm the direction. Next is Angkor Wat. Didi, do you know Angkor Wat? No. Uncle, what's Angkor Wat? Angkor Wat was more like a Buddhist city than a temple. Angkor Wat was built by Suryavarman II in the 12th century and worshipped Vishnu. In Hinduism, Vishnu was the guardian of order among the three major gods. Buddhism itself was born from Hinduism. After it was introduced to China, it evolved into Zen to adapt to Chinese politics and customs. Chapter 1861. Chen Zhao deactivated his Titan form and had Didi put away his equipment. After all, this was a cultural heritage of mankind. He had to respect it. It was still night time in North America, but Cambodia was 12 hours ahead of North America. It was already noon. There were quite a lot of tourists here. Chen Zhao and Didi strolled around Angkor Wat like ordinary tourists. After staying in Angkor Wat for more than an hour, the two left again and went to the next place. They left Cambodia, crossed the Gulf of Thailand, entered the Myanmar Sea, and then passed the Bay of Bengal. Then they crossed India and entered the Arabian Sea. Chen Zhao and Didi did not stay in India. In Chen Zhao's impression, this was a dirty and messy country. More importantly, it was extremely unfriendly to women. They passed the Arabian Sea, entered the Gulf of Aden, entered the Red Sea, and then turned into Egypt. They had to go to the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx before coming to Egypt. This was the evidence left behind by the world's oldest civilization. Ancient Egypt and Egypt were not the same civilization. It was still morning in Egypt. They could barely see anyone. However, there were still Egyptian relics protection agencies here, so the two had to be more careful. After getting close to the Great Pyramid of Giza and taking pictures of the Sphinx, the two had breakfast in Cairo. Then they entered the Mediterranean Sea and crossed the European continent. Their next stop was England. Hey, Lee, where are you in England now? Uncle, we're in Edinburgh. Why do you ask? Are you in England too? Lee's voice sounded a little tired and sleepy. Not yet, but we'll be there soon. Okay. What time are you arriving? About 10 minutes later. What? Just then, Lee received a photo. Didi had sent it to her. 20 minutes later, with dark circles under her eyes, Lee watched Chen Zhao and Didi descend from the sky. Uncle, Didi, how come you're here? And you chose this time too. Look at the time. It's already 6. Although it was already 6:00 in the morning, England was still quiet at the moment. We're traveling around the world, me and Didi. Sister Shinli, we have been to Hawaii, Mount Fuji in Japan, and then we went to Vietnam. We saw the water monster there, and then we went to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Oh right, before we came to England, we also took pictures on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Sphinx in Egypt. After that, we went to Cairo for breakfast. Lee's face was filled with shock. You're going to travel around the world just like that? Yeah. Chen Zhao nodded. Do you want to give up on your plan? I'll bring you along. Xanli rolled her eyes. Uncle. All right. I'm just giving you an idea. I'm not forcing you. Shall I rouse them all? Asked Sherlock. There's no need. Xanli wondered in her heart why she was the only one called up. When they reached a remote area, Chen Zhao and Didira stopped. Okay, we should go. Chen Zhao returned to his Jin form. Didi, we should go home. After all, this trip around the world was short, and it was mainly an impromptu idea. Along the way, they had skipped too many places worth stopping at. They left England and entered the North Atlantic Ocean. The target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. I repeat, the target is in the North Atlantic Ocean. What exactly is that thing? Is it China's secret weapon? Can't detect it. The target's main body is enveloped by a huge energy. Where is the Atlantic Fleet now? The Atlantic Fleet is currently at longitude 45. 5455, dimension 45. 66547, approaching the target's route. Order the Atlantic Fleet to intercept the target. Permission to fire freely. Target is approaching the Atlantic Fleet. The target is hiding in the sea again. What exactly is that thing? It can move in both the sky and the sea. Lost track of the target. Chen Zhao was so annoyed by the American fleet. They were too nosy. But this also meant that the American defense was indeed strong. Chen Zhao had originally planned to land on the East Coast and then take a detour back to Los Angeles. But now it seemed that if he entered American territory like this, it would probably provoke the Americans. It was very likely to provoke the nerves of the Americans, who might directly hit him with a nuclear warhead. So, Chen Zhao decided to take a detour and enter the Gulf of Mexico. Then he passed through the Mexican border. After that, he entered the Pacific Ocean again. Then he moved in the sea and returned to Mingyue Villa in Los Angeles. Whoosh, I'm home. Chen Zhao let out a long sigh. Although this trip around the world was more daunting than dangerous, Chen Zhao still considered it. He should learn some methods to avoid radars or satellites. Otherwise, he would be caught by radars or satellites every time he moved at high speed. Plus, with the Americans' overbearing habits, he would be harassed every time. It was really hard to guard against them. Is it still night in Los Angeles? Didi looked at Mingyue Villa in the night. It's almost morning. Chen Zhao patted Didi's head. Go rest. Uncle, can you take me to travel around the world in the future? Of course. Chen Zhao looked at Didi seriously. Didi, I'm not the kind of person who knows how to talk to people, but I hope that you can truly accept me in Feilai. What you're worried about won't happen. No matter what happens, we won't abandon you. Didi lowered his head and then looked up again. He silently reached out and hugged Chen Zhao. Can you let me go? I'm not good at dealing with situations like this. Chen Zhao said awkwardly, but Didi didn't let go. Fine, if you want to hug me, Chen Zhao said helplessly. Uncle, I'm hungry. You seem to have just had breakfast. I'm just hungry. The underlings are already working. See what's in the kitchen. Bring some to me too. Chen Zhao and Didi took some food and sat on the dragon's head, watching the sun rise from the horizon. The light was dazzling. Satisfaction was written all over Didi's face. I'm going to watch the sun rise every day. You eat so much. You need to exercise more. Uncle, I won't get fat just from eating. Every fat person thinks that, and then they become fat without realizing it. In the morning, Feilai woke up and saw Chen Zhao and Didi sitting on the dragon's head. Chen, Didi, did you finish your trip around the world? Of course, Auntie, we went around the world, and we also went to a lot of places. Dra excitedly talked about the night's journey. Chapter 1862. Qinzhao and Feilai hoped that their children would know how to make requests. They wouldn't think that it was already a great kindness to adopt you, but you still dared to make requests. A group of kids surrounded Didi, asking her about her trip around the world. Qinzhao took out a few pieces of eel and barbecued them. Jerlin had been sleeping, but when she smelled the grilled eel, she immediately rushed out. Dad, I want to eat, not just Jerlin, but all the kids were drooling. Wait. After all, Qinzhao hadn't tried the food yet. He didn't know if it was harmful. So, Qinzhao didn't dare to give it to the kids. Qinzhao finished the grilled eel in a few bites. Jerlin burst into tears. Dad, you're so naughty. You didn't even give it to Jerlin. Qinzhao looked at Jerlin as he ate the roasted eel. If you keep crying, there won't be any food. Look, brother and sister aren't crying. Even little Larissa isn't crying. Are you embarrassed to cry? Jerlin pouted and looked at Qinzhao angrily. Dad, if you don't give it to me, I'll cry. Okay, there's more. There's a lot more. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with the eel, Qinzhao took out more. He had to admit that the more powerful they were, the better the meat. Qinzhao suspected that these powerful creatures were all strengthening their meat. Just then, Portia came and saw Qinzhao barbecuing with the kids. Boss, it's only morning. You're already barbecuing. Come and help, Qinzhao said. He stood up and gave Portia the grill spot. Boss, I'm your assistant, not your maid. Steven called me yesterday and said that you acted like a piece of shit during the audition. He's considering if he should recommend more movie roles for you. Portia was speechless. She sat before the grill and started barbecuing. Take care of them today. Didi, help Portia look after the siblings too. I'm going out for a bit. Okay, Uncle. Go do what you need. Do you need me to bring anything? Snacks. I want snacks. I want fries and Coke. I want cake. I have too many snacks at home. I can't buy any more. Qinzhao went straight to the headquarters of the supernatural organization. After arriving at the headquarters, Qinzhao went to find West. West, give this heroic spirit notebook to Wenk Sieg. West flipped open the heroic spirit's notebook and saw the records. West was speechless. President, you went to Vietnam last night. I was passing by and happened to run into the Mekong River monster, Qinzhao said. So I took care of it. West smiled bitterly. The difference in strength was just that big. No matter how hard the members of the association worked, they were still running around for every Scarlet mission. And he might not even be able to handle it. Every mission required a lot of preparation and screening. However, Qinzhao had gone to Vietnam and completed a red mission. Guild leader, although you've completed one Scarlet quest, we won't change our plans for the other two Scarlet quests, Aqua Rose said, shaking her head. Up to you. This Mekong River water monster mission will be a backup. West thought for a moment before nodding and putting away the heroic spirit notebook. West, put a new track for the ballistic testing device. It's too short. I use it to measure speed, but it's not good. The acceleration distance isn't enough. Okay, the association has money now. After completing the Nordic Giant mission, Wenk Sieg had transferred some money to the association. I plan to renovate the headquarters. What do you think, President? Sure. Qinzhao nodded. You decide. Then I'll contact your construction friend. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. How about later? I'm planning to build a private airport too. I can ask him to build it together and save some money. There was a difference in the price of a project being constructed together and separately. Both Chen Zhao and the supernatural organization had a lot of money in their accounts. But Chen Zhao felt that he should save as much as he could. Okay. When do you plan on leaving for the next Scarlet Quest? About a week later. I'll have to let you take care of the headquarters again. Chen Zhao saw that the headquarters would only come once every few days. Aduz was mainly in charge of guarding it. Same rules. Call me if you need anything. Don't force yourself. Got it. By the way, President, do you know about the Battle of Holy Glory? Yes. Last time, Zhang Tianyi told me that he wanted you guys to participate and give you a few spots. I didn't take it. Why not? Stunned, West looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. Why would you take it? There's no reward. It's just a useless title of Holy Glory. It's not permanent either. It's only for 10 years. I can't think of any benefits. What a pity. This was supposed to be a chance for our people to interact with the world's top spiritualists. West wasn't trying to increase his fame. He had the same idea as Chen Zhao. They both wanted to keep a low profile. But now, he wasn't sure how big the difference was between the people of the association and the world's top spiritualists. So, if he had a chance to participate in this event, he would have a platform to interact with the top spiritualists. Having a platform to communicate with those top-notch spiritualists would also allow him to know what level they were at. In the North American region, the supernatural organization's power was already the top organization. But West also knew that there were even more powerful organizations and forces outside of North America. The strength of those organizations was not to be underestimated. Of course, the most powerful person in the supernatural organization was definitely Chen Zhao, the president. After all, Chen Zhao could already talk to the world's top 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi of Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect on equal footing. But the balance of power in the supernatural organization was out of balance. Chen Zhao was unbelievably powerful, but the organization didn't have the power to crush everything. Most of the time, they still needed Chen Zhao to support them. For example, when they went on a Scarlet mission, Chen Zhao's line was always to inform him if there was trouble. West and the members of the organization had always wanted to catch up to Chen Zhao. But the gap was getting bigger and bigger. Chen Zhao's power made them feel despair every time. Are there any tickets? I asked Zhang Tianyi too. Are there? He told me to scram. Chen Zhao shrugged helplessly. President, ask Mr. Zhang if he can participate anonymously. West still hadn't given up on the idea of participating. Okay, I'll ask. Chapter 1863. After leaving the headquarters, Chen Zhao went to the supermarket. He wondered if he should ask Winnip to open a supermarket near Mingyue Villa. Of course, this idea was basically impossible unless Chen Zhao was willing to pay for it. Mingyue Villa was too remote. It was more than 30 kilometers away from the city. There were only roads along the way. There were no other buildings. Very few people walked on the roads. The kids at home had asked him to buy snacks, but Chen Zhao had rejected them. Nevertheless, he still planned to buy some snacks. Of course, the "a little" referred to hundreds of snacks and happy otaku water. Carbonated drinks were said to be unhealthy. However, children also needed a certain amount of sugar when they were growing. Children like to eat sweets because they contain a lot of sugar. Nutrition was a very complicated field of study. It was even more complicated than medicine. Moreover, children of different ages had different nutritional requirements. Of course, when Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were at home, they would barbecue and drink beer. As long as one didn't overeat, the so-called junk food and happy otaku water wouldn't harm the body. Chen Zhao pushed the shopping cart out of the supermarket. Suddenly, a scene appeared in Chen Zhao's shadow eye. Chen Zhao took a step back. The snacks on the cart exploded. Another sniper. Who was it this time? The other party's movements were very fast, and after a single strike, he didn't care whether he hit the target or not. He hid behind cover. Chen Zhao's shadow eye only saw an instant. He didn't even have time to identify his surroundings. However, from the bullet's trajectory, Chen Zhao could roughly confirm the direction. There were a few buildings in that direction that could be a sniper's temporary base. This was the first time Chen Zhao's shadow eye couldn't catch the enemy. Previously, Chen Zhao could even sense it from the International Space Station. But the shadow eye, which had always worked, actually met its Waterloo today. Of course, it wasn't a Waterloo. It was mainly because the enemy was well trained. If the enemy stared at Chen Zhao for 3 more seconds, Chen Zhao would be able to catch them. He was ambushed, but he couldn't even catch the enemy. Chen Zhao was depressed. Chen Zhao stood there and waited for a long time. He hoped that the enemy would attack again. But he didn't see the enemy attack again. In the end, he could only leave in disappointment. He knows there's a sniper, but he's still standing there. Jax glanced at the rearview mirror. "This guy is either crazy or stupid," one of Jax's men said. "It could also be self-confidence," Jax said calmly. "If it's a handgun at close range, it's possible to dodge it, but it's a sniper rifle at such a long distance. No one can dodge it after being aimed," the subordinate said disdainfully. Obviously, he didn't agree with Jax's words. Most handgun bullets were round, and their ballistic speed couldn't even reach the speed of sound. Therefore, at close range, a person with sharp reflexes and a certain level of strength would have a chance to avoid it. However, the ballistic speed of most sniper rifles could reach 2,000 meters per second, which was about 6 or 7 times the speed of sound. If an assassin aimed at him with a sniper rifle and failed to dodge before firing, the probability of being hit was more than 80%. As for the 20% that didn't hit their target, it wasn't because they were dodged, but because they were off target. "That guy's senses are very sharp," Jax said. "I just pretended to look at him casually, and his footsteps changed. I've been in this business for 3 years, but I've never seen anyone who can really see behind their backs." Jax's subordinate was a little arrogant. "Just because you haven't doesn't mean there's no such thing. Even I don't have absolute confidence in winning against him," Jax said, somewhat relieved. "Luckily, I didn't accept this mission. We should keep some distance from this guy. His conflict with Joseph has nothing to do with us." Knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a soft knock on the car window. Jax looked up and saw Chen Zhao standing outside the car. Jax's subordinate immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Chen Zhao. "I heard your conversation just now. You're talking about me, right?" The subordinate looked at Jax. "Boss, what do we do?" Jax's expression was unsettled. Had Chen Zhao heard their conversation? This meant that Chen Zhao had been standing outside the car for a while. But the two of them hadn't noticed at all. This kind of strength that silently appeared in the vicinity was too terrifying. If Chen Zhao had attacked just now, the two of them might not even know how they'd died. "Mocha, put the gun down," Jax said. Jax rolled down the window and Chen Zhao put his hands on the door. "Did the attack just now have anything to do with you?" "No, it has nothing to do with us," Jax answered. "Sir, we're just here to watch." "Watch? Why should I believe you?" Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes at Jax and Mocha. Who do you think you are? Mocha yelled. Our boss said it has nothing to do with us, so it has nothing to do with us. Jax waved his hand, signaling for Mocha to shut up. Sir, this really has nothing to do with us. Watching a show isn't fun. Since we're here, shouldn't we pay for the ticket? What do you want? Jax asked. Who attacked me? What's their relationship with you? How do you know? The person who attacked you was our employer, but we rejected him, so he found someone else. What's his name? Joseph. He's called Hyena in the industry. Why did you reject him? I don't think we're friends. Because you're rich, just like our previous employer. You're richer than him. We usually don't attack super rich people because it's too risky. Plus, you were able to defeat 6 armed men unscathed a few days ago. This means that you're not to be messed with. When the risk is disproportionate to the reward, I choose to reject you. You know about the bank robbery a few days ago? What's your relationship with that? The people you beat up were hired by me. So we're still enemies. No. At least I don't plan on being enemies with you. Please stop here. We don't have any conflict of interest. Okay, one last question. Where can I find your previous employer, Mr. Hyena Joseph? Beverly Hills. He has 2 mansions there, but I'm not sure. Chapter 1864. Jax's attitude had always been one of compromise. This made Mo-Ka very unhappy. He felt that Jax was too cowardly. A man should be tougher. There was no need for them to be so timid and even expose their employer's information. Anything else? I want more information. He might harm your family. Chen Zhao frowned at Jax's words. You really didn't participate? No, if we had participated, we wouldn't have appeared before you. Chen Zhao turned to leave. Just then, Mocha pointed her gun at him. This was a great opportunity. Jax was shocked. Originally, he was able to stay out of this matter. But Mo-Ka had raised her gun recklessly. And before Jax could react, it was too late. He fired at Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao tilted his head to avoid the bullet. Everything was so natural. Chen Zhao turned around and walked toward Monica and Jax. Monica and Jax panicked. Misunderstanding, it's a misunderstanding. Jax tried to calm Chen Zhao down. But Mo-Ka made the wrong decision again. He fired directly at Chen Zhao. However, even though it was only a few meters away, it couldn't hit Chen Zhao at all. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao was before Mo-Ka. Mo-Ka turned pale with fright. He finally believed what Jax had said before. Some people's eyes were grown on their backs. Wait. Sir, bang, Chen Zhao pressed Monica's head down and smashed it against the window. Jax's hand went to the weapon at his hip. Chen Zhao pulled Monica out and pushed her toward Jax. Before Jax could take out his weapon, Mocha pounced on him and threw him to the ground. Chen Zhao stepped on Monica's back, making it impossible for Jax to get up. Sir, Mo-Ka is just young and impetuous. Chen Zhao increased his strength and Mocha screamed again. Young people are full of vigor. He shot me with a gun. Is this called being full of vigor? I can help you make an appointment with Joseph, Jax said. Only then did Chen Zhao let go. Jax was annoyed by Monica's disobedience. He could have stayed out of it. Right now, he could only intervene. He didn't want to be enemies with Chen Zhao. Likewise, he didn't like to be Joseph's enemy. He knew how terrifying Joseph was. That was the most despicable and vicious person he had ever known. There was no other. Of course, he also had his own armed forces. Other tycoons relied on their own influence to prevent others from coveting their wealth. However, Joseph had no influence, so he could only rely on his own equipment. Half of his money was used to arm his personal forces. He was like a warlord among the rich. In addition, he was involved in some of the businesses. Drugs, firearms, people, and even organs. Therefore, he gathered a group of vicious criminals under his command. There were dozens of armed men living in his house all year round. Even his butler, servants, and chefs were wanted criminals. But now, he had to make a choice. They were either on Chen Zhao's side or Joseph's. Of course, if he stood on Joseph's side, he would have to face Chen Zhao right now. Mo's rash actions just now had already caused them to lose the qualifications to be spectators. Jax, I'm not in Beverly Hills right now. I'm at my villa in the suburbs. A villa in the suburbs. How come I didn't know you had property in the suburbs? Ha. I just got it. The original owner is a good person. He only took $1 from me, haha, give me the address, Jack said. I have something to talk to you. Okay, I'll send you the address now. After hanging up, one of Joseph's subordinates said, Boss, Jax has been in contact with that person. Got it, Joseph said disapprovingly. Let our people prepare to welcome our guests. On the wall of the room, a man was hanging on the wall. In front of Joseph, there was a naked woman. However, this woman's arms and legs were broken, and she was lying on the table. She no longer had any reaction to Joseph's actions. Just at this time, Joseph suddenly let out a high-pitched voice, and his body trembled. Damn bitch, no reaction at all. Joseph kicked the woman, and she fell to the ground. Bring Ah Bao and Gates here. One of his subordinates brought 2 hounds that were barking and baring their fangs to Joseph. My darling, she's your dinner. Joseph squatted down and touched the 2 dogs, then untied their collars. Ah! Ah! The woman who had no reaction suddenly screamed and struggled. But facing the 2 ferocious dogs, the woman with her limbs broken couldn't fight back at all. The 2 dogs' mouths were full of blood and flesh, and they tore at the poor woman crazily. The man hanging on the wall struggled with all his might. It clearly wasn't the first time the 2 dogs had bitten someone. They knew how to make the victims suffer even more. They didn't bite the woman's throat. The woman kept screaming, but she couldn't die. She was already a bloody mess. Joseph slapped his head and said with a face full of regret, Oh no, I shouldn't have let them eat here. I really like this carpet. Do you know how to clean this kind of knitted wool carpet? Forget it, let's change the carpet. Joseph sighed. This carpet should be an Arab merchant's carpet. Just then, one of his subordinates came to Joseph. Boss, Jax is here. Oh. How many? 1 car, 3 people. Other than Jax and his subordinate, Mocha, there's one more person who's our target. 3 people. There aren't any other cars behind them. No. Ha. Let them in, Joseph said proudly. I didn't think that Jax would actually bring them to me, even though he said no. Soon, Jax, Mocha, and Chen Zhao were surrounded by Joseph's subordinates. A few people came over to search him. His phone was also taken away. Please keep my phone safe for me. Chen Zhao smiled at the person. The person looked at Chen Zhao with a cold smile. Jax and Mocha looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. They'd thought that Chen Zhao would call someone. But Chen Zhao had come alone. To them, this was no different from walking into a trap. They really didn't understand Chen Zhao's intentions. Did he think that he could solve all the problems by himself? The person who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone pushed him. Let's go. My boss is waiting for you. Don't let him wait too long. He doesn't have a good temper. Chapter 1865. Chen Zhao walked into the living room and saw a man hanging on the wall. There was also a woman who had been bitten into a bloody mess. Frowning, Chen Zhao walked up and kicked the two dogs away. He squatted down to check the woman. She was still breathing. She wasn't completely dead. Chen Zhao fed the woman a bottle of medicine. Joseph looked at Chen Zhao quietly, a faint smile on his face. Sir, this isn't the attitude a guest should have. Chen Zhao stood up again and looked at Joseph. You want to kill me? Ha! Don't make it sound so bad. I just want to borrow some money from you, Joseph said disapprovingly. Joseph said disapprovingly, if I really wanted to kill you, you would already be lying on the ground. With that, Joseph waved at his subordinate. The subordinate who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone took out a contract. Come, sign this document. Chen Zhao sat on the sofa and crossed his legs. He picked up the document and glanced at it. It was an IOU. It meant that Chen Zhao had borrowed $2 billion from Joseph. He was going to use all of his properties as collateral. How is it? Are you satisfied with the contract? It's not about whether I'm satisfied or not. It's about whether you have the ability to make me sign it. Chen Zhao smiled at Joseph. I heard you have a beautiful wife and 2 daughters, right? Joseph pointed at the man hanging on the wall. He rejected my request before too. This is his wife. Chen Zhao looked at Joseph and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. I said that I need you to prove whether you have the ability to force me to sign this contract. Just then, the person who'd taken Chen Zhao's phone took out a gun and pointed it at the back of Chen Zhao's head. But the next moment, Chen Zhao turned around without any warning. Crack, the man's arm was broken. Chen Zhao took back his phone unhurriedly. Good thing my phone isn't broken. Someone, Joseph's bloated body hid behind the sofa with unimaginable agility. Numerous noises could be heard from outside. Chen Zhao looked at the lights in the room and then at the man hanging on the wall. He walked over and tore off the seal in the man's mouth. Your villa should have a butler system, right? Kill him. Kill him for me. The man roared. Give the butler an order to cut off the power to the entire villa. Cut off the power. The entire villa district's power supply was instantly shut down. Everything was plunged into darkness. Even the starlight in the night had disappeared. Then, a scream came from outside the door. Da-da-da, boom boom, everyone felt as if they had fallen into a battlefield. Gunshots and explosions filled his ears. Of course, there were also the inevitable screams. At this moment, Jax and Mocha both found a place to hide. They had no idea what was going on. It was unbelievably dark here. There was no light except the flash of the gun and the explosion. Not even the fire was lit. This kind of dark environment was really unsettling. Finally, the gunfire stopped. The entire villa district was silent, as if it was a silent hell. Everyone held their breath. How's the situation? Who lost? Who won? Just then, Chen Zhao's voice sounded in the darkness. You can turn the lights back on. Connect the power. When the lights came on, everyone felt that their eyes weren't used to it. A few seconds later, they opened their eyes again. But all they saw was a sea of blood. The living room was filled with corpses. All the corpses were piled up in the living room. More than 100 corpses were piled up into a small mountain. Blood had covered the entire living room. The scene sent chills down one's spine. This was a true hell of flesh and blood. Jax and Mocha were both elites among mercenaries. But now, they were truly afraid. What kind of monster was this? Chen Zhao stood beside the pile of corpses. His body was covered in blood and his hands were in his pockets. This guy was an even more terrifying demon than Joseph. Joseph's evil couldn't compare to this man at all. Mocha felt her scalp go numb. How did she have the courage to shoot him? How could she do something so stupid? Chen Zhao walked over and pulled the man down, loosening the rope around his wrist. The man immediately wanted to pounce on Joseph. But Chen Zhao stopped him. With a meaningful smile, Chen Zhao said, "There's still a long time tonight. Don't you want to have some fun?" Joseph's face was pale and his limbs were trembling. Chen Zhao walked over to the woman and put her on the sofa. "Your wife isn't dead yet," Chen Zhao said. "Go get a basin of water. If she's lucky, she might survive." The man knelt before his wife and started crying loudly. "Maiev, I'm sorry. It's my incompetence that hurt you." The woman called Maiev's eyes were unfocused. Her body and mind were both broken. Chen Zhao turned his head and glanced at Jax. "Mr. Jax, when I'm treating this lady, I hope some people can keep quiet and not disturb me." Jax took a deep breath. "Happy to help, Mr. Chen." "Lady, it might be very painful, crack." Chen Zhao straightened Maiev's arm. Maiev arched her body. But now, she didn't make a sound. Chen Zhao sensed that Maiev's aura had weakened. He sent a bit of celestial power to protect her heart. Terrified, Joseph gradually calmed down and secretly took out a gun from his back. Bang! Jax blew at the smoke from the muzzle. "Sorry to disturb you," Jax said. "Mocha, go get some tape and seal Mr. Joseph." Chen Zhao didn't get distracted. He continued treating Maiev. Jax was very rational. He didn't have Mocha's impulsiveness. Especially after the massacre. "Sir. Maiev, does she still have hope? The environment here is simple. I can keep her alive for now, but her injuries need to be changed. I'll call the hospital now." "No, the hospital can't save her," Chen Zhao said. Then what?" Chen Zhao lowered his voice. "A secret place, but you can't reveal it. You and your wife can go there temporarily, but I don't want you to tell anyone about it. Do you understand?" I understand. I'll agree to any of your requests. You can take my assets too." "No need. I'm not interested in your assets." Chapter 1866. "Darling, I might not be able to go back tonight." Chen Zhao called Fei Lai first. "A bug is planning to use you and the child to threaten me. I'm killing it now." "Okay, wash up when you come back. I don't want you to bring the bug smell home." "I'm busy. I'll hang up now." Chen Zhao hung up. Everyone was thinking about Chen Zhao's wife. Chen Zhao called Klaus again. "Klaus, I'll send you the address. Drive the helicopter over and need a stretcher. Someone's heavily injured and needs to be taken to HQ. Also, have Jolig prepare a container." "Got it, President." Chen Zhao put away the phone and stood up again. "Now, we can deal with our main guest today." Chen Zhao looked at Joseph. "Don't be rash. Do you know how powerful I am? Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you killed a few of my people?" Chen Zhao ignored Joseph's threat. He turned to the man beside him. What do you think about steaming? No, that's too easy on him. Then skin him. I still can't vent my anger. How about we bring him back alive? I have many options for you to choose from. There's bound to be one that suits you. Of course, I also want him to die in pain. After all, no one has ever dared to use my family to threaten me. The man thought for a moment and finally nodded heavily. He controlled the beast in his heart. He was afraid that he would suddenly lose control and kill this demon. A while later, the helicopter arrived. Klaus arrived with the lightning squad. When Klaus entered, he immediately covered his nose. President. Yes, leave 2 people here to deal with this. 2 more people come and carry this woman to the helicopter. These 2 look like mercenaries. Klaus looked at Jax and Monica. The 2 immediately exploded. Klaus's gaze made them very uncomfortable. It was a gaze even more explicit than Chen Zhao's. No need, Chen Zhao said. Let them stay and deal with the bodies, then let them go. Chen Zhao and the man sat in the helicopter. Joseph was used as a footrest and laid flat in front of the seat in the helicopter. What's your name? Jiggs. Jiggs stared at Joseph on the ground. His hands were trembling. However, he controlled his emotions very well. Just like the most delicious main dish, it must be served last. The helicopter slowly landed at the headquarters. Carry your wife, Chen Zhao said. But he. Jiggs looked at Joseph on the ground. Don't worry, he's yours. Here, you have a lot of time to satisfy your hatred for him. Only then did Jiggs pick up Maev. Jolig and West came out to help. Jiggs carried Maev to a room. Put her in that container. Chen Zhao pointed at a container in the center of the room. Jolig, get the oxygen pump. Chen Zhao instructed everyone. After putting on Maev's oxygen mask, the container was filled with water. At the same time, he poured the perfect demonic crystal mixture into a container and poured 3 bottles into it. Then, he started pouring his immortal power into the container. Jiggs looked worried. Mr. Chen, can Maev survive? Sure. Chen Zhao and Jolik started adjusting the heart rate monitor. There were basically all kinds of equipment in the association. Maev was completely soaked in the liquid. After some work, they finally finished installing all kinds of equipment. Heart rate monitor, alarm, body temperature monitor, water temperature monitor. Jolig was in charge of the other aspects. Chen Zhao couldn't help much. It's done, Jolig said. Jiggs, let's go. It's time for revenge. Jiggs took a deep breath and walked out of the headquarters. Right now, Joseph was yelling in the empty space. He kept threatening everyone here with vicious words. However, his voice woke up the people who were resting. Many poked their heads out and looked at Joseph curiously. President, what's wrong with this guy? Helis walked out with a dark expression. A bug, Chen Zhao said calmly. Almost everyone came to watch. The evil spirit group came too. They were curious who dared to say such things here. Jiggs was still angry, but he was worried. He asked in a low voice, Mr. Chen, so many people are watching. Will your decision be okay? Ha. These guys like to watch more than me. I can do whatever I want. Of course. I want sulfuric acid, Jiggs said tentatively. Hey, you have potential. You want to soak him in sulfuric acid? No, I'm going to pour it into his stomach. Jiggs, don't you dare. Joseph roared. I'll feed your whole family to the dogs. Sulfuric acid isn't fun. He'll die too quickly. I have something fun, Hila said. Jigs shuddered. This young girl's words were terrifying. What is it? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Let me see. Helis returned to her lab. A few minutes later, she took out a bottle of black liquid. Jigs took the bottle and looked at the black liquid inside. The black liquid seemed to be alive. It kept climbing up. What is this? Jigs felt his hair stand on end. He instinctively felt that the black liquid in the bottle was something very dangerous. This is called the spirit of death. You can only get this much from 100 rotting corpses. Jigs almost dropped the bottle on the ground. 100 rotting corpses. This was extracted from rotting corpses. Hold it tight, Helis reminded. If you drop it, it'll contaminate the place. It'll be very troublesome to deal with. What will happen if he drinks it? Let him try. You'll know soon enough. Chen Zhao went up and pinched Joseph's mouth. Come here and pour this down. When Jigs opened the bottle, a pungent, rotten stench rushed out. Jigs immediately aimed the bottle at Joseph's mouth. Ugh! Joseph struggled with all his might. Jigs saw that the black liquid in the bottle didn't flow into Joseph's mouth. Instead, it crawled into his mouth. Chen Zhao closed Jigs's mouth and pushed it away. Whoa! Joseph fell to the ground and howled. He kept grabbing at his throat. Then he started retching again. Apart from saliva, nothing came out. Chapter 1867. Joseph scratched his throat, but he couldn't spit anything out. At the moment, he was in extreme pain. He kept rolling on the ground. Joseph was in extreme pain. His clothes were torn too. At this moment, something seemed to be drilling under his skin. Jigs took a few steps back in fear. He stared at Joseph in shock. It was a twisted face. The strange face wriggled under Joseph's skin. It wasn't just one. A second face appeared too. Jigs had never seen such a strange scene before. It made him forget his hatred. He kept staring at Joseph. Save me. Save me. Joseph stood up with difficulty. He staggered toward Jigs. At this time, even his head was deformed. On the left side of his head, another face appeared. His head doubled in size too. The other face had a strange expression. Then his body expanded too. More than 10 faces appeared on his body, covering his front, back, left, and right in layers. Then his limbs were covered by the twisted faces too. Jigs retreated in fear, his face pale. Roar! I'm going to kill you. Kill all of you. Jigs howled. He looked even scarier. But at the same time, he suffered even greater pain. Disbelief filled Jigs' face. What's wrong with him? I don't know. It looks like he's accepted the spirit of death. Disgusting. He can even fuse with such a filthy substance. His soul must be filthy too. Harris took a few steps back in disgust. Klaus took out a machine gun and handed it to Jigs. You can shoot him as hard as you can to vent the hatred in your heart. Jigs froze. He looked at the twisted Joseph, still hesitating. Just then, Joseph pounced at Jigs. Jigs pulled the trigger instinctively. Bang, 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 Joseph took a few steps back. Jigs lost his balance and fell to the ground. Joseph charged at Jigs again. Jigs covered his head in fear. But the next moment, he heard a dull thud. He lowered his arm and saw Chen Zhao standing before him. Joseph, on the other hand, was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He can't hurt you here, Chen Zhao said. Klaus, give him a stronger weapon. Wait, I'll go get the Gatling from the warehouse. Not long after, Klaus brought out a full set of Gatling guns. Of course, Jigs couldn't just shoot with the Gatling gun. We still need cows to set up the shelves. Alright, you can start firing now. Jigs was still in a daze when he was dragged to the Gatling rack. This was his first time playing with this thing. Joseph roared and became even crazier. Kill, kill, kill. Kill all of you. Everyone stepped aside. Jigs took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. Da-da-da-da-da. The sound of the Gatling gun firing was completely different from that of a normal machine gun. Shell casings poured down like rain, and the bullets were also shot out crazily. Joseph didn't even manage to run a few steps before his body was shot into pieces. Ah! Jigs continued to vent the hatred in his heart. The hatred in his heart was constantly released with the firing of the Gatling gun. Jigs didn't stop until he finished shooting. By now, Joseph had already become a pile of rotten meat. But there was still something wriggling in the pile. He's not dead. Jigs's face was filled with shock. This thing is really resistant to physical attacks. At this moment, Joseph stood up again. What a special feeling. This feeling of being reborn is really intoxicating. It'll be even better if I use this power to kill you all. Joseph's body wasn't so big anymore. Instead, it shrunk a lot. But it seemed to have become even more terrifying. His arms turned into blades. He was intoxicated by his new power. Jigs's face was pale. Did I go overboard? Jigs looked at Chen Zhao and the others. He realized that they weren't worried at all. Instead, they looked at Joseph's new form with interest. Suddenly, Jig saw a white figure descend from the sky and land behind Joseph. What is that? Joseph also felt a chill on his back. He suddenly turned around and the blade on his arm slashed behind him. The blade passed by Pamela's body, and she was cut in half. But Joseph's arm turned into ice. And Pamela's body was back to normal. Little guy, who did you say you wanted to kill? When Joseph heard Pamela's voice that was as cold as winter, he retreated in fear and looked at Pamela warily. Pamela, he's our toy. You don't have to do anything. Yes, President. Pamela floated out of the circle. Jigs turned his stiff neck and looked at Chen Zhao. That is, as you can see, the people gathered here aren't normal people, or not human, Chen Zhao said calmly. For example, Lady Pamela. She's a banshee. There are hundreds of evil spirits beside you. They're Lady Pamela's evil spirit army, Harold said. But you can't see them. Jigs gasped. Coldness invaded his entire body. Right now, Joseph was like a trapped beast, terrified and helpless. He wanted to explode, but everyone here made him powerless. In Chen Zhao's group, he was a pitiful bug. Only then did Jigs realize the true secret here. Why would Chen Zhao say that before bringing him here? Okay, push the meat grinder over, Chen Zhao said. Rumble. The meat grinder made a loud noise. The ear-piercing sound made Joseph even more uneasy. He turned to run, but a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Joseph was blasted away. Did I allow you to leave? Chen Zhao looked at Joseph. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Joseph screamed. But his pleas couldn't make anyone pity him. Chen Zhao went up and grabbed Joseph's neck. Joseph reached out and stabbed at Chen Zhao's chest. But the blade on his arm couldn't do any damage to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao broke Joseph's arms with his other hand. You should be more obedient. Chen Zhao had someone bring a bag and put Joseph inside, but he left his head outside. Then Chen Zhao casually tossed the bag and Joseph into the meat grinder. Ah! Tragic cries spread through the entire headquarters. Chapter 1868. The scream made Jig's hair stand on end. Blood sprayed out from the end. But the flesh started wriggling again. Joseph stood up once more. Jiggs was in disbelief. He still couldn't kill him. Did he have an immortal body? Even Joseph couldn't believe it. Even Joseph couldn't believe it. He'd gone through the meat grinder and still couldn't kill himself. Haha, ha. Joseph laughed wildly. I have an immortal body. I can't die. It's your turn now. President, this guy is kind of dumb but cute, Jolanash said teasingly as she looked down at Joseph from the window. There was no such thing as an immortal body in this world. True people in the supernatural world all knew this. There was no true immortal body in this world. If he couldn't be killed yet, it was only because he hadn't found a way to kill him yet. Joseph was far from being unkillable. Halley's knew 100 ways to kill him. Moreover, the spirit of death wasn't some heaven-defying substance. Only a noob like Joseph would think that he'd obtained incredible power. President, do you need my help? Dongya Tianchi held the katana in his hand. He flicked his thumb, revealing a line of the blade. Even though it wasn't completely unsheathed, the white-faced ghost still emitted a terrifying demonic aura. No need. He can't take one hit from you. The white-faced ghost slash wasn't a physical attack. No matter what it slashed at, it only needed one slash, and one slash was enough to kill. Of course, there were only two types of enemies. One was those he couldn't beat. For example, he couldn't fight against someone like Qin Zhao. The other was those who were weaker than him. He could kill them with one hit. Immortality was just a joke in front of him. He could seal off fatality with one hit. Even if the target wasn't alive. Qin Zhao looked at Jiggs and asked, do you want to kill him with your own hands? Can he be killed? How? Qin Zhao took out a bottle and handed it to Jiggs. Jiggs realized that the bottle was filled with red liquid this time. Judging from its viscous state, it looked like some kind of blood. What's this? Just pour this on him and you'll be able to kill him instantly. Jiggs gathered his courage and walked toward Joseph. Joseph still wanted to intimidate Jiggs. But the next moment, Pamela blew a breath of cold air at Joseph from a dozen meters away. The lower half of Joseph's body was frozen solid. Get lost. Don't come near me. Joseph roared. The bottle in Jiggs's hand made him very uncomfortable. Jiggs opened the bottle cap, and a gust of hot air rushed out. What exactly is this thing? Why does it make me feel so hot? Jiggs splashed the red liquid on Joseph's body. Ah! Joseph screamed again. She wondered how many times he had screamed tonight. But it was different from before. Before, he only felt pain. But this time, he felt death. Joseph's flesh began to burn. Or even boiling, it was a more painful process than being thrown into a meat grinder. Soon, Joseph's entire body was set ablaze. Even the ice was melted. Joseph howled in pain and struggled. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't extinguish the flames on his body. Jiggs hurriedly took a few steps back to avoid being affected by the flames on Joseph's body. What kind of liquid was that? It could actually burn. He didn't know that the bottle just now contained the blood of a fire dragon. The blood of a fire dragon contained a large amount of fire element. It also had a powerful exorcism effect. Normal evil spirits wouldn't dare to touch it. Just a little bit and their souls would be ignited. Joseph wasn't even strong. Many twisted monsters had his regenerative abilities. It wasn't a unique ability. And Joseph thought he was invincible. In reality, if he was hit a few times, he would lose his consciousness and become a twisted monster. Many people in the society had seen this stuff and were already used to it. Especially since Hallies would come up with one every few days. The things that Joseph and Hallies had created were not the most powerful. Finally, there was no more sound from Joseph. His body was turning into ashes. Jiggs let out a long sigh. He was a little disappointed. Joseph was dead. He suddenly regretted killing Joseph so quickly. But he was still a normal person. While Joseph was still alive and kicking, he was still in a state of panic. He was afraid that Joseph would lose control accidentally. But after Joseph died, he felt that he'd let Joseph off too easily. At this moment, another bolt of lightning suddenly descended, directly bombarding the still burning ashes. Chen Zhao's last strike had completely turned Joseph's bones into ashes. Okay, this ends here. Jiggs, you can stay here until your wife recovers, Chen Zhao said. Remember what I told you. I won't tell the outside world about this place. Maiev won't either. Chen Zhao nodded. Take him to a room. Jax and Mo Ka walked out of the mansion. They'd been dealing with the corpses for most of the night. Suddenly, Jax lifted his leg and kicked Mo Ka's butt. Mo Ka was kicked to the ground. Boss, you almost killed us. Jax didn't feel good. They'd been enjoying the show. But Mo Ka's reckless behavior not only dragged them into the situation. They'd also offended Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't kill them both. It was already God's blessing. Jax was furious, but he didn't dare to take revenge. He could only vent it on Mo Ka. Plus, it was Mo Ka's fault in the first place. Mo Ka rubbed his butt and stood up. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. He followed Jax silently. Tell our people to leave LA immediately, Jax said. We can't stay here anymore. Boss, will that person kill us? Mo Ka asked in fear. Now you're scared. Why didn't you look scared when you attacked? Mo Ka didn't dare to talk back. How could he not be scared? In 20 minutes, he'd killed more than 100 people. He'd never killed so many people in his life. He'd never seen such a terrifying person or enemy. The mercenaries and killers that disappeared in LA in the past 2 years were probably done by that person, Jack said. He probably thinks that LA is his territory. If we stay here, we'll only give him an excuse to attack us. Chapter 1869. England, Edinburgh. This was the capital of Scotland and the most developed city in England apart from London. It had a strong industrial base and high-tech industries. Of course, it was also a very famous cultural city. Ruan Faxben led the way, followed by Axianli, Colin, Moore, and Lisa. They were standing in front of a castle. Edinburgh was located at the mouth of the sea on the east coast of Scotland, so many castles here were built on cliffs. The castle in front of them, called Death Valley, was built on the cliffs of the coastline. Death Valley Castle was not inferior to Edinburgh Castle at all. They didn't know why this castle had such an ominous name. They came to Death Valley Castle today to visit the owner of the castle. However, when everyone entered the Death Valley Castle, an eerie chill assaulted them. It's so uncomfortable here, Colin said, touching his goosebumps. There were some modern appliances in the castle, but the overall style still retained the ancient style. Of course, some damaged areas had been repaired. Due to the original design flaw, the inside of the castle was not transparent. It gave people a particularly eerie feeling. Death Valley used to be the territory of the leader of the rebel army, Earl Nagran Vagris. However, the rebel army was eventually defeated by the government. It said that Earl Nagran Vagris was hanged in the deepest part of this castle, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan Faxben said, the castle and the noble title are now inherited by the descendants of Earl Nagran Vagris. Just then, a clear sound of footsteps could be heard. It's not the rebel army, it's the revolutionary army. A woman walked over. The woman had long blonde hair, was tall, and wore high heels. She looked smart and capable. The woman looked at everyone with a condescending gaze. I'm Nala L., Mr. Vagris's assistant. Are you the one who wants to see Mr. Vagris? Beautiful lady, I'm Ruan Faxben. Hello. Ruan Faxben reached out his hand, but Nala L. didn't. This made Ruan Faxben feel rather awkward. His hand froze in the air, not knowing whether to withdraw or release it. Wait here. I'll go inform Mr. Vagris. Although you have an appointment, Mr. Vagris's temper has always been erratic. He might not see you. Knock knock knock, Nala Iyer stepped on the heaven-hating heights and left. Her footsteps were as arrogant as she was. What an unlikable woman, Ruan Faxburn murmured. Faxy, it's mainly because you're not likable. You're already in your 40s, and you're the kind of person who doesn't care about your appearance. Why do you have to act like a gentleman? Reisa teased. Shut up. I'm not even 50 yet, Ruan Faxi yelled in annoyance. If the president is here, he can definitely change that woman's attitude. Bullshit, the president is so young, how could he have the temperament of a mature man like me? But the guild leader is more charming than you. That's right, Uncle is a perfect man. Exanly said, handsome, young, gentle, rich, and powerful. Ruan Faxben rolled his eyes. Little girl, you haven't seen your uncle's cruel side, right? If he gets angry, he'll transform into a demon. Even if he's angry, there must be a reason. Exanly was Chen Zhao's diehard fan. Also, I can feel a strong sense of jealousy from your tone. You're jealous of him. Ruan Faxben turned his head away, asking for a snub. Facing a brainless fan, no words could wake her up. Just then, Nala Iyer returned. Everyone immediately quietened down. Mr. Vagris agreed to see you, but you better be mentally prepared. Mentally prepared for what? Nala Iyer hesitated. Mr. Vagris is a bit weird. He always thinks of himself as a vampire. It's fine, Ruan Faxben said, smiling. We'll cooperate with his performance. Alright, please follow me. After passing through the long corridors, they finally reached the depths of the castle. A man in classic British aristocratic attire leaned against the window, looking at the sea outside. Count Vagris. Ruan Faxben put one hand on his chest respectfully and bowed with his head lowered. Shouldn't vampires hide in dark rooms? Aren't you afraid of the sun shining on you? Risa tilted her head and looked at the man before her. It's the sun now. It's in the other direction of the castle. It can't shine here, Nagran Vagris said. Nagran Vagris said, and vampires hate the sun, not fear it. Ruan Faxben knew that one of Qin Zhao's subordinates was a vampire, but he hadn't heard that Qin Zhao was afraid of the sun. Nagran Vagris waved at Nala Iyer, gesturing for her to leave. After Nala Iyer left, Nagran Vagris ran his hands through his hair. Everyone sized up the vampire in front of them. You are the dead Duke Nagran Vagris? Ruan Faxburn asked in a probing manner. Are you surprised? You must have encountered many supernatural creatures, right? Quite a few, but it's my first time with vampires, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan said, but I heard that even vampires don't live more than 200 years, right? It's a matter of power, Nagrand said. When I break through some shackles, I have a lifespan that surpasses my peers. Tell me, what do you want from me? Don't tell me that you want to turn into a vampire. Only ordinary people can do it, and the process is very complicated. No, we want to know the contents of the Book of Prometheus, Xianli said eagerly. Xianli said impatiently, you were the one who donated the Book of Prometheus to the British Museum, right? Did you leave a copy? Nagrand Varglas looked at Xianli in surprise. Your blood looks delicious. Ruan Faxben looked at Nagrand Vagris. Please don't do anything to these children, especially this girl. Trust me, her parents are very fierce. I'm fierce too, Nagrand Vagris said with a smile. Her parents only need to call 23rd generation Blood Mary to come and support her. Count Nagrand Vagris, are you sure you can handle it? 23rd generation Blood Mary. Nagrand Vagris' face twitched, as if recalling an unpleasant memory. Forget it, I can't afford to offend her. Chapter 1870. Nagrand Varglas came down from the windowsill and turned to look at them. I have the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus, Nagrand Varglas said. Since you have such a powerful background, the price you're offering shouldn't be low, right? Price? Do I still have to pay? Xianli asked, confused. How much do you want? My uncle gave me a credit card with a limit of $100,000. Nagrand Varglas rolled his eyes. Ruan Faxben looked at Nagrand Varglas. Then what does the Earl want? Her blood, Nagrand Varglas said, pointing at Xianli. I'm afraid not. Her uncle will kill me. I just need a little, 1,000 milliliters. It's not much, right? It's okay, just 1,000 milliliters. I agree, Xianli said generously. Normally, 500 milliliters was enough for 2 donations. Xianli didn't think it would be a problem. Where's the rubbing? This girl's blood is only the first condition. There are 2 more. Any other requests? Ruan Faxben frowned. Previously, Xianli had exposed their goal in advance. It caused them to be very passive now. After all, they had a favor to ask. They could only accept Nagrand Varglas's request. I want a dragon's tooth, and a pure-blood dragon's tooth at that. This. Ruan Faxi's face showed hesitation. But Xianli exposed herself again. That's it. I thought it was something else. We have plenty of dragon teeth. Xianli's tone was very arrogant. Nagrand Varglas raised an eyebrow. Plenty of dragon teeth. I'm talking about pure-blood dragon teeth. Are you sure you have a lot? Not a lot, Ruan Faxben immediately interrupted Xianli. Xianli was too young. She didn't know how dangerous the world was. But we can still give you 1 dragon tooth, Ruan Faxben said. Do you have other parts of pure-blood dragons? Nagrand Varglas asked. Yes, but you should also know how precious these things are. 1 dragon tooth is our bottom line. Don't expect us to pay more, Ruan Faxben said forcefully. All right. Nagrand Varglas rubbed his chin. The 3rd request is that there is a 2-headed ogre hibernating in the West Mountain Forest. I want you to bring the head of this 2-headed ogre to me. Earl, I'm an alchemist. I don't have much fighting power. My role is to babysit them. Now, you want me to bring these children to kill a 2-headed ogre? Don't you think it's too much? Ruan Faxben looked at Nagrand Varglas with righteous indignation. He glared at Nagrand Varglas indignantly as if he had suffered a huge grievance. Actually, killing a twin-headed ogre was not completely unacceptable. But Ruan Faxi didn't want to accept it so easily. Moreover, the twin-headed ogre was not easy to kill. Ordinary ogres only had one head. They were just some bloodthirsty, greedy beasts with well-developed limbs and simple brains. However, among the ogres, there were rare twin-headed ogres. Not only did they possess high intelligence, but they also cultivated both physics and elemental energy. Not only did they have stronger bodies than ordinary ogres, but they also had powerful elemental magic. Coupled with their cunning nature, their fighting power was more than 10 times that of ordinary ogres. Didn't you say that these children have great influence? If you can't do it, you can ask the elders behind them. I believe they can definitely do it. Nagrand Varglas looked at Ruan Faxben as if it was a matter of course. They came out to train. If they contact their families because of this, then their training will be a complete failure. I will also be severely punished, so I don't think this is a good choice. That's your problem, Nagrand Varglas said mercilessly. Earl, we came with sincerity. If you ask for such a sky-high price, then we can't continue the discussion. Seeing Ruan Faxben's unyielding attitude, Nagrand Varglas couldn't help but wonder if his request was too much. However, when Nagrand Varglas saw Axayan Lee's gaze, he suddenly realized that Ruan Faxi was trying to bargain with him. I don't think this request is too much. Earl, if any of these children are hurt, their elders won't just vent their anger on me, Ruan Faxben threatened. Nagrand Varglas was instantly unhappy. Ruan Faxben's words were clearly a threat. Do you think I'll be afraid? Do you know how many of my family members are in Edinburgh? Perhaps I'll be afraid in other places, but in my territory, no one can threaten me, not even the Scarlet Church or 23rd Blood Mary. Earl, Axayan Lee's elders can affect not only 23rd Blood Mary, but also Taoist Master Zhang Tianyi of the Eastern Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Master Sect. I believe Mr. Zhang will be very willing to travel to Edinburgh. Nagrand Varglas's expression changed slightly. Of course he knew Zhang Tianyi's name. This name was even more famous than 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi was known as the number one in the spiritual world. He was also different from 23rd Blood Mary. It was said that 23rd Blood Mary was about to reach the end of her life. So Nagrand Varglas felt that 23rd Blood Mary would not be a threat as long as he delayed for a while. As for the Scarlet Church, if they really wanted to start an all-out war with him. As long as Edinburgh was the main battlefield, he was not afraid of any force. But Zhang Tianyi was different. He did not even need to come personally. He only needed to wave his hand. Many spiritualists were willing to work for him. The number one in the spiritual world was not just for show. But Nagrand Varglas wouldn't give in so easily. His face was still filled with disdain. Say whatever you want. How do I know if you're telling the truth? You might as well say that you can make the Prime Minister trouble me. Earl, since you say so, then forget it. I hope you can still maintain this attitude in the Battle of the Holy Glory. Nagrand Varglas raised an eyebrow. This guy knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory. Those who knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory were definitely qualified to participate. And everyone who was qualified could not be underestimated. Especially when they could influence the two strongest in the world. Chapter 1871. The Battle of Holy Glory was a feast for those at the top of the spiritual world. It was like the Football World Cup. Even Nagrand Varglas couldn't refuse this feast. Nagrand Varglas was also a frequent participant in the Battle of Holy Glory. But if the people behind them could influence the two strongest people in the world, then Nagrand Varglas would be in big trouble. Especially when the Battle of Holy Glory arrived. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary met him head-on, he wouldn't even have a place to hide. The spiritual world was a place where strength mattered. It followed the law of the jungle here. The strength of one's strength represented everything. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary wanted to deal with one person at the same time, no one would dare to make a sound. And if these children were really in danger because of his request, or even died, then it would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. In any era, killing someone else's junior or descendant would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. Don't talk about a fair deal. No one would accept such an excuse. He would be the same, let alone the others. Then leave. Since you can't make a deal, you don't have to stay here. Xanli looked at Ruan Faxben anxiously. Riisa shouted, I'm going to kill the two-headed ogre. I'm going. Don't stop me. I can definitely kill the two-headed ogre. Riisa, calm down. The two-headed ogre isn't something we can deal with, Moore said, pulling the noisy Riisa aside. I'm not afraid of the two-headed ogre, Riisa shouted, stomping her feet. I don't care, I have to go. Ruan Faxben's face darkened. He looked at Nagrand Varglas. Earl, if anything happens to them, you'll be in big trouble. You're blaming me for not keeping an eye on the children. Of course I won't blame you, Earl, but their elders might not be as reasonable as me. Nagrand Varglas was even more annoyed. What do you want? We can agree to the first two conditions, but the third one is big trouble for both of us. Give me another dragon tooth, Nagrand Varglas said. Actually, it was useless to have more dragon teeth, but Nagrand Varglas would not let Xanli bleed anymore. After all, 1,000 milliliters of blood would have a certain effect on the human body. If there were any more, if something happened to the girl, that was the real problem. Ruan Faxi thought for a while and finally nodded. Okay. But Nagrand Varglas felt like he had been tricked. These are two dragon teeth. Where's the rubbing? Ruan Faxaben asked. In the British Museum, Nagrand Varglas said with a smile. What? Are you messing with me? Of course not. You can have as many copies as you want. The Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum, and the curator of the British Museum is my friend. So if I want to borrow and copy the book, it's just a matter of asking. Nagrand Varglas said disapprovingly, the Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum. Do you have equipment to draw blood here? Nagrand Varglas bared his fangs. Do you think a vampire needs equipment? Trust me, if you dare bite her, you won't live past tonight. Alright, you guys go find the equipment to draw blood. Nagrand Varglas did not believe Ruan Faxaben's words. But he did not want to cause trouble. Let's trade tomorrow, Ruan Faxaben said. We'll give you the blood bags and the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus. Do you want these two dragon teeth back? No, just take it as a deposit, Ruan Faxaben said. Aren't you afraid I won't pay? If you think the two dragon teeth are worth the risk, you can try. Ruan Faxaben left the castle with the 4 children. Faxaben, what did you think of my performance just now? Lisa asked proudly. Not bad, but a bit too much. You're already a teenager, but you acted like a child, Ruan Faxaben said. Ruan Faxburn said, you have such a high IQ. I think you should sign up for an acting class. My performance was so perfect. What's wrong with it? Lisa shouted angrily. Mr. Faxaben, we clearly have a lot of dragon teeth. Why don't we trade directly? And can't we beat a two-headed ogre? Dragon teeth are worthless to us because they were obtained by your uncle. Your uncle has the ability to slay dragons, but others don't. That's why we need to control the number of dragon teeth on the market. If there are too many dragon teeth on the market, then the price will plummet. We'll still be the ones losing out, Ruan Faxaben explained patiently to Xianli. Unlike Moore and Lisa, who were both smart, and different from Colin's more complete worldview. Xianli had always lived in her family's residential area. She had some contact with the outside world, but not much. Most of her contact was through television or computers. Therefore, she was still very naive and didn't understand these things at all. As for the two-headed ogre, it's not easy to deal with, Ruan Faxaben said. Even if we're confident, we shouldn't deal with it ourselves. At least we need Nagrand Varglas to offer a higher price. Otherwise, we'll be working for nothing. But we only want the Book of Prometheus. We don't need anything else. The Book of Prometheus is written in ancient Greek. Can you understand it? Or do you think any of us can understand it? Can that vampire count read it? I don't know, but as an old monster who's lived for more than 200 years, he's definitely more knowledgeable than us. He's definitely more likely to understand ancient Greek. Okay. Did I almost ruin things just now? Xianli asked. Ruan Faxaben took a deep breath. Xianli had indeed ruined things. If Xianli hadn't interrupted, Ruan Faxaben was confident that he could get the rubbing at a lower price. But he definitely couldn't answer yes directly. If Xianli was traumatized because of this, Chen Zhao would kill him. It's okay. This is why the president asked you to come out. You still have many things to learn. Mr. Faxaben, I promise I won't interrupt again, Xianli said firmly. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.